She once fell off a ski lift. He was called in for questioning. They are Maggie and Perloff on CBS Sports Radio.
Third down. 6 dropping Hurts. Hurts is in trouble in his own end zone. He's going to be sacked for a safety. Anthony Nelson did not give up and racked up Jalen Hurts for a safety.
Oh boy, the Eagles bite it on the road against Tampa Bay. Hey, welcome to the show, Maggie Gray, Andrew Perloff. That was actually, of all the highlights to play, that one was the least of your problems.
Don't worry, Jalen Hurts. Someone's going to get open soon. Keep scrambling around back there.
Wow. Well, Perloff, you'd been predicting it for quite some time, and the Eagles delivered on what you've been saying, which is they are woefully just woeful on defense. Yeah. Could not tackle. They get blown out 32-9. So congrats to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I don't want to seem like I'm not doing to the victor goes the spoils. Mm-hmm. It felt like if Philadelphia got off the flight and said 1, 2, 3 Cancun. They did not want any part of this game.
They couldn't even wait till 3 to book their tickets on Cancun. They didn't want any part of the last quarter of the season.
Yeah,
it was unbelievable. I was thinking,
how you feeling?
I feel fine. Here's the analogy, and I don't know if this is proper or if I'm going to get in trouble for saying this, but it felt like the Eagles were brain dead about 4 weeks ago, and they finally just pulled the plug last night.
Oh, no.
Is that wrong?
No, it's not wrong. You've been on life support for a couple weeks.
No, there's been
1-5 finish.
There's been no life, and that's why I think have I been mildly defending Nick Sirianni? You think that's fair to say? Measured. 3 straight playoff runs, 11 wins this year, Super Bowl last year. It's unusual to fire a guy after a Super Bowl this quickly. Obviously, the absence of Shane Steichen, what it did to the offense, and the new defensive coordinator, and putting Matt Patricia, I'm with everybody else. I joined the mob last night, Maggie. I brought out my pitchfork and said, let's get Sirianni out of here. I'm ready for him to move on because you nailed it. 1, 2, 3 Cancun. Troy Aikman said it from the get-go. The body language is not good here. You just can't have a team give up. And that's what happened defensively this year. Then the offense followed suit. I think they saw the defense give up and were like, well, we're not going to go out there and get hurt. So it was just a complete, utter team failure, and obviously the head coach takes the responsibility.
Nick Sirianni is the most obvious person who's going to lose their job here. It's almost like coming in after the Cowboys lost, and it's like, well, goodbye, Mike McCarthy. You know, people are comparing you to a pat of butter. Like, this is just getting really dire and desperate. That, to me, though, if I'm Philadelphia, that's just the tip of the iceberg. Like, you can fire Sirianni. It shows that if you have to fire a guy a year after he led you to a Super Bowl and you were 3 points away from beating Patrick Mahomes, you got to look internally about how did that go from such a good-looking hire to a bad-looking hire? Was it ever a good hire? Was it just his coordinators who were propping him up? All of that stuff. But don't you have to go to Jalen Hurts on this? I know he was dealing with a thumb injury, and they were in terrible field position all night. He didn't have A.J. Brown. Excuse. But he's also being talked about as one of the top, 7 quarterbacks in the league, maybe. He's talked about as the guy who is a culture setter and a tone setter, and I thought he was terrible last night, and he was lifeless last night. I mean, head coach is one thing, Perloff, but you got to go a step further here. That is wildly disappointing for Jalen Hurts.
Here's where I veer off from the crowd. People have been underestimating Jalen Hurts since he was 18 years old, since he was a 5-star and barely even made the cut. Yeah. He is not – people do not understand Jalen Hurts. I think that everyone sees him be so stoic on the sideline and thinks he's not fiery. I still like Jalen Hurts. Believe me, I'm on many Eagles text threads, and they all want to get rid of Hurts too. But that's Philadelphia. You just get rid of the quarterback. So last night also there was a Dallas Goedert blow up on the sideline, which is not a good sign. He was sort of complaining to Hurts, and there's all these stories on ESPN about internal strife. Honestly, Hurts is injured. He has a serious knee injury. They said it on the broadcast last night. He's going to get surgery this week. Yeah. I guarantee it. He just won't talk about it. And I like this stoic style. I like that he doesn't show any emotion because I think he could be a bulwark of a championship team, obviously. So I'm not giving up on Hurts. Listen, this is a town that gives up on the quarterback. When I was a kid, they would boo Randall Cunningham, and they gave up on him, and then he went to Minnesota and was a Pro Bowler. I will not give up on Hurts. I understand last night did not look good. I think you can fix this team really quickly with Jalen Hurts at quarterback. And he wasn't that bad last night. Did you think he played that poorly?
They were all bad, but I think that when a team is in this much disarray in terms of the sniping, the internal strife. When you have good veterans on this team, like you saw Fletcher Cox tried to start a little something, to get the guys going on defense. Like you have Kelsey, you do have guys who have been here before, and Jalen Hurts should be a culture guy. I think he got a lot of credit at Alabama, how he took the benching to Tua and then went on to Oklahoma and, and took out Carson Wentz and was the anti-Carson in Philadelphia and got so much credit for that. And then where was it last night? Where was anything? I'm not expecting him to go rah-rah and get in guys' faces, but here's what makes me nervous about Jalen Hurts. You can be that stoic guy.
Yes.
But and that's fine. But then I don't want to read things like this on ESPN, which is Jalen Hurts' desired direction for the offense has not materialized, which has been a source of disappointment for the franchise quarterback, according to a source with direct knowledge of Hurts' thinking.
Yeah,
don't do the backdoor stuff here. If you're not happy or if you want to be stoic about it, fine. But then to do this backdoor stuff where you're really going to throw your weight around as the franchise quarterback by sniping with unnamed sources to ESPN before a playoff game, that deserves criticism.
Get out of here. Have you watched the Eagles? Anybody disagree with him that offense is not going in the right direction?
Then say it to their faces. Then take it to whoever and say, I don't like this. I don't like the direction. Don't backdoor channel this ESPN nonsense.
The dude had a broken finger, and he has a meniscus tear or something going on in his knee. He was 25 for 35, 251 touchdown last night. Anytime you put the camera behind him, there's never an open guy he's thrown to. There was no A.J. Brown yesterday.
That's fine. So, that's honestly, all football stuff.
I'm telling you, Hurts is an effective quarterback. He could be really good.
Okay, then you should. Then he's going to have a lot of power because you paid him, and that's totally fine. I actually think that's okay for quarterbacks to have power. But ask yourself, does something like that? This report where he's unhappy with the offense, like no kidding, but he's unhappy with the offense. Does that add to the divisiveness and to the drama in the locker room, or does that try to diffuse it?
It
adds to it.
Honestly, Matt Patricia's a coach here. You understand that. And the other, Brian Johnson has, in my opinion, done a terrible job in part because he's too close to Hurts. Yeah, they need to start over offensively, but number one, they need to start over defensively. I will take Hurts. I think that is a strength of this team. So to kill him, honestly, you got to bring in. Everyone wants to bring in Belichick. I would bring in Vrabel. I want that grit that we did not see last year. I want this team. Maybe they're not going to be great with Mike Vrabel because they have a lot. They're going to have some talent deficiencies. A lot of guys are getting older. But I want that team to fix that body language. Say, can you ever see a Mike Vrabel team coming out dejected like they did last night on defense? I would never see it. So I think Hurts is fine. Although I got to tell you, you bring up an interesting point. There's so many friends of mine who are Eagles fans who think Hurts is a number one problem, even more than Sirianni. But they hated Hurts 2 years ago. And I said, Hurts is still very good.
Yeah.
And then they grudgingly took him as the quarterback last year to the Super Bowl. And then they were so quick to jump off this bandwagon. Because there's something about Jalen Hurts that people just do not connect to.
I don't think it's that. I think people want to connect with Hurts. I think he's been in our lives for a long time with college. He's played in all these high-profile games. Like, I don't think there's a natural inclination to not like Jalen Hurts. I don't think that at all. And I've liked him. I just don't like this stuff. Where you already have a season that's off the rails. Everyone knows that the reckoning is coming here. It's Philadelphia, for goodness sakes. Like, changes are gonna happen. You're not just gonna sit idly by, and then you're gonna have like the anonymous sources say, I'm not happy with the offense. Like, come on, man. That it doesn't make it any better. That's some kind of stuff you expect from wide receivers, not from quarterbacks, and not for quarterbacks that we hold in such high esteem as Jalen Hurts. I mean, last night, Baker Mayfield got that treatment from the broadcast like no one's ever played quarterback before until Baker Mayfield showed everybody how to be a leader. But, great. Baker resurrected his career. All that stuff was being said about Hurts last year. And I just think you add to the drama, and he's adding to it. And as far as where they go now, the thing about Vrabel, you can bring in Vrabel. He gets his team ready to play. What are you going to do about the offense, though? Because you are going to be losing key pieces, especially I'm imagining Kelsey's got to retire at this point.
I wouldn't. I mean, he's a center. Obviously, he was supposed to retire last year. How hard is it to play center? I don't know that he definitely retires. Regardless, so Lane Johnson will be back. Hurts couldn't run this year. They mentioned last night the RPOs were not effective.
Yeah.
That's what Troy Aikman said was the biggest difference. I think the biggest difference was that Jalen Hurts lost his wheels altogether. He's not that old.
Well, you mentioned the knee injury, but
so I think if he gets healthy, if he can run like he did last year, that was what was missing from the offense this year. Even last night, the guy makes a lot of plays. Even last night, there were throws he made. I'm like, whoa, no one knew Jalen Hurts was going to come into the NFL and make throws like that. And that was with no receivers. So I thought there were plays last night where like there are very few quarterbacks who could make that play. And he never gets sacked because he's always escaping out of the back of the pocket, which is a criticism that he doesn't sell there. But he helps the offensive line. There are very few Jalen Hurts sacks.
There are two things I thought. First of all, Hurts was injured, obviously, with the knee, and he's out there playing and gutting through it, so good for him. He gets hurt all the time. He was hurt last year and it was only lucky that the Eagles were so far in front of everyone else in the division that they could afford to rest him down the stretch. He's hurt again this year and dealing with it. Is that something chronic you're going to be dealing with, especially considering the offensive line? They're not scrubs up there. And he does escape sacks. The other part of this, and the Eagles just either have to get used to this or something, but I thought that the most demoralizing moment for the Eagles in a 32-9 loss where they basically no-showed a playoff game was when they failed on the tush push. So they kick the extra point after they score a touchdown finally. We're like, all right, it's going to be a game here in the first half. They get a penalty on the point after, and it moves you up to the 1-yard line. It's like, well, here you go. This is Philadelphia's bread and butter. And the Bucs actually stopped them on the tush push, and I think it just kind of stunned everybody. And you were about to get some momentum, maybe, and then it all went away.
I mean, a blind man could have seen that face mask. That was bizarre that they didn't call that. Yeah. I mean, if you're watching the ball, Jalen Hurts' head does a 180. I have no idea what happened on that play. They definitely missed a penalty. Even the broadcaster. I mean, listen, a major broadcaster, the call has to be so bad for them to call it out on public on television, and that was an obvious miss. I agree with you, but listen, the defense was just dying to let someone run through them at the back. Darius Slay and the safeties were making quote unquote business decisions left and right.
Well, he got carted off the field, so the business should Slay later on in the game.
But the long touchdown that guy on Tampa Bay, who I barely heard of, when he ran, Slay missed a tackle. Then Kevin Byard, the old safety that they got from Tennessee, just was like olayed him.
It was Bradbury.
They just completely gave up on the game. And Slay, when Slay got hurt, he was going off of the cart. They're like, it's 11 years in. I didn't realize he was that old too. This whole team is ancient. Yeah. So there's going to have to start over. But I start over. What happened to Jalen Hurts? You understand, he had one of the great Super Bowls against Kansas City last year. That was 12 months ago. People are acting like that guy is completely gone.
I'm not acting he's gone.
I am excited about Jalen Hurts. My problem is the defense. If the defense is good and Jalen Hurts gets healthy, I'm back on the Eagles bandwagon next year.
Listen, you're right. The defense was terrible. They were uninspired. They couldn't tackle. They're why you lost. But here's what I'll say about Hurts. I'm a Hurts fan, but I ask you, did he contribute? Was he continuing to contribute in a positive way to making sure this team was galvanized on the same page and together? And that's something that is a given from your quarterback, especially a guy who just got $200 million in the offseason. And he was like that before the money. So I don't think that, this is not unnatural for him. Guys do want to follow him, and he is a leader. And I don't think you were watching any of that stuff because, yes, the coordinators were lost. This is what happens when you make the Super Bowl. You lose coordinators. You lose talented people because people other teams poach your coaching staff. And the fact that you were lost a bit on offense, definitely on defense, lost a little bit on offense, and it felt like Jalen Hurts wasn't there to make up that lack of leadership, where that's his bread and butter, I thought.
There's nothing Jalen Hurts could have done. I mean, first of all, a lot of that goes on the coach as well, but you're getting into sort of gray areas. I understand there was an ESPN hit piece, but even that,
you
have to understand the level of knowledge of what happens in the locker room is never going to be close to 100%. I think to assume that Jalen Hurts was not the leader, it feels like Seth Wickersham stuff to me. I don't know. I'm not ready to buy all that. What really happens in the locker room, we never really know.
This isn't what happens in the locker room. This is somebody went to a reporter, either Jalen himself or his agent or someone in his camp, basically said he didn't like the direction of the offense, right? And he wants change, and it basically makes it seem like he was disappointed.
Bill in South Philadelphia could have told you they didn't like the direction of the offense. They're terrible. Who would like that? If he liked the direction of the offense, they would have had to put him into a mental institute. There's nothing about the direction of this offense that anybody liked. That's barely even quote worthy. No, duh, you don't like the direction of the offense. You mean the fact that you still refuse to run after all these years with Nick Sirianni? The fact we actually had hope. We, meaning we're like, oh, well, Jalen Hurts' finger is hurt. That means they're going to have to hand the ball off. Yeah. And they start handing the ball off. Doesn't work after 3 plays, and then they go for 9 straight pass plays. They just don't know what to do on offense at all. And Hurts is right. The direction is awful.
So if you bring in, as you want, Mike Vrabel, because Nick Sirianni is going to be this bizarre footnote in Philadelphia sports history. I got to be honest, it kind of makes your organization look bad if you are firing Sirianni a year after a Super Bowl run. That's what bad organizations don't even make the Super Bowl, but
there's nothing bad about the Eagles organization. They've been a really consistent winner.
They've been a model franchise, but in some ways. But if you are really firing your head coach a year after you make the Super Bowl, don't you have to look in the mirror and be like, how? You're mentioning Jalen Hurts as, 12 months ago, he's leading the team to the Super Bowl. I mean, 12 months ago, Sirianni was a genius. 12 months ago, Sirianni was...
Well, Sirianni was a genius. He was always a motivator. Shane Steichen was a genius. That was we talked about a lot on the show. When they got Sirianni off play calling and put Steichen in, the entire ship took off like a rocket ship. Now, Sirianni doesn't really do anything. He doesn't call plays. I think that's why they're going to get rid of him. It's not like
but there's a lot of head coaches that don't call plays. They don't get fired. John Harbaugh doesn't get fired the year after they make a Super Bowl. He doesn't call plays.
Yeah, but John Harbaugh had consistent excellence for years. I don't think
you just made the playoffs. You won 11 games. You started 10-1.
I mean, come on. You saw that team there. They lost to the Cardinals and the Giants.
It's stunning. No,
it's not really that
stunning.
Last night
was stunning because you had a chance to reset for the playoffs.
There was nothing stunning about last night. It was so predictable.
Okay. I mean, I know you weren't expecting a lot from this team to begin with, but it was stunning because you did not think that the Philadelphia Eagles were going to completely lay down.
How could you not think that? Who didn't think that?
It's the playoffs, man. You have to have a little pride.
They just do not. The roster, the back four is so bad. They cannot tackle. Once you see a team giving up on tackling halfway through the year, you know they're going to be bad. By the way, another team that gave up on tackling, another Pennsylvania team, looked like the Steelers didn't really want to tackle at the end of that game yesterday either. So to me, that's my litmus test for a team. When they do not put effort into tackling, that's when the wheels have completely fallen off.
I'll give you that. We will get into the Steelers losers to the Bills and the crazy moment post-game with Coach Mike Tomlin. What was the question that set him off? Goodbye. We'll get to that in a minute. 855-2124-CBS. You're also welcome to weigh in on the Eagles. Obviously very raw right now.
No. It's so not raw. It's the most unraw thing. Honestly, raw like kicking a body that's been dead for 5 weeks. There's nothing raw. There's no smell. They've already been eaten apart by the vultures.
Nope. It's not. You can try to say, oh, we knew this was coming. And you did say that. But it's raw because everything you may have thought before now gets thrown into a blender. You're going to be looking for a head coach now. Are you going to find the right person? You need a new offensive coordinator. Are you going to find the right person? Is Jalen Hurts going to like this person? Is he going to jive with this person? What's going on with A.J. Brown? Scrubbing the social media, then said it wasn't about, the Eagles. All right, sure. You have and you're going to lose veterans in that locker room. There's a lot in flux here with the Eagles. It's not just about what happened on the field yesterday.
Well, I don't think it's raw in the sense that it was much like Weekend at Bernie's. This whole team was propping up a dead man and trying to pretend he was alive going into last night.
Sirianni?
No,
who's burning?
The entire team was burning. When it was 16-9 and that whole mess happened with the extra point, there was a lot of hope because Tampa Bay, they were dropping everything. Baker was throwing dimes and they couldn't catch the ball. And then they were settling for field goals. I admit there was a moment of hope there. But
how many Bucks drops kept you in the game?
I know. Thank you, Bucks receivers. And Mike Evans, what happened there? Why did he decide, I'm not really going to try today? Mike Evans is so hot and cold. He must be the most frustrating player to root for ever. But listen, by the way, Baker Mayfield, totally silent. What happened there? Why is that guy all of a sudden good?
And meanwhile, he's playing hurt. You said Jalen Hurts is playing with injuries. I mean, Baker's got like 2 ribs left, maybe. And he's like throwing explosive plays all over the field. I
think that might be a function of the Eagles having given up. So, honestly, let's just like land here. I'm pro Hurts, anti Sirianni, and where do you stand?
I think you got problems that you don't want to admit you have.
Like
you have deeper problems that you don't want to admit you have. I think you might have a locker room problem, number one, and I'm curious to see how Hurts handles it in the future. And I think you have to do a whole makeover on your coaching staff.
Well, definitely.
And you just did that. Because you fired Doug Peterson.
They didn't want to do that.
After he made a Super Bowl and gave up on him, and then you go to Sirianni, and now you're going to give up on him. And that's generally what bad franchises do.
Well, they didn't want to do this makeover. They wanted to, if they kept Steichen, Gannon, and Sirianni as a team, everything would be fine. And I think great coaches can afford to lose coordinators. Sirianni's not a great coach. He could not afford this blow. I think he coaches again in the NFL. He's a young man. He's certainly got some skills. So I'm not as worried. I'm actually much more hopeful than you are.
You can watch us in the chat, youtube.com/CBS Sports Radio, twitch.tv/CBS Sports Radio, where Bernie says that once Philly Perloff is upset, it's a wrap for the coaches and the players. Once you've lost Perloff, it's over.
Yeah, I'm generally a stability guy. I don't like firing coaches, and I have not been
Except for this one.
I'm not going to take no joy in firing Nick Sirianni, and I also think there's a small chance he'll take him back for the reason you bring up. They're not a bad franchise. I mean, they've had
too much
Andy
talent
Reid
on the open market for coaches to not make
it's a
the
bad
change.
year. I mean, they had Andy Reid for almost 2 decades.
Yeah.
They had Doug Peterson had a lot of going on there. And Chip Kelly, they only gave 2 years. So this falls into the Chip Kelly category. It's not working.
855-212-4CBS, 855-212-4227. Okay, you're welcome to weigh in on the Eagles' disappointment. You are also, well, and whose fault, Sirianni? Are you putting any of the blame with Jalen Hurts here? I am. He can't be totally blameless in this. 855-212-4227. We will get you Mike Tomlin. What made him walk off the podium last night after the Steelers win? Did not like a certain question from one reporter. So we'll get that to you in just moments. Maggie and Perloff, CBS Sports Radio.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. 2 minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. "45 seconds remaining. "30 seconds remaining. "15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Looking left, and now in the end zone, complete to Dawson Knox for the touchdown. Oh, he was wide open. He split the two defensive backs, and Allen hit him for the opening drive TD.
A tale of two hosts today. Welcome to Maggie and Perloff. One of Victor, as you hear on Bill's radio right there, the Buffalo Bills gashed the Steelers early and kind of held on in some weird way. My Eagles are out. Maggie, are you floating on air?
Yeah. I mean, listen, so many injuries to the defense. I thought they were going to start just pulling fat guys out from the stands and putting jerseys on them to try and stop the Steelers at the end, but they held on. I mean, the Steelers were overmatched in this game, and we can talk about what went on the field with Mason Rudolph and with the defense, and we can talk about all that. The most important takeaway from a Pittsburgh Steelers perspective from that game is not anything that happened on the field. It's what happened post-game. And here is Mike Tomlin. So he goes through the press conference, and he's answering questions about the team and about the loss to the Bills. This was the final question, and you'll see he just walks away.
Anyone?
Mike, you have a year left on your contract.
Yeah. Mike, you have a year left on your contract, and he just took his playbook and walked out the door.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's saying, I want to talk about the game. Listen, this isn't about my contract. This is about the team and everything we did this season. I get it. What do you read into this?
I didn't like it. Two things. Number one, you've been at this for so long. If you're Mike Tomlin, you're a head coach that you've had to dodge every kind of question in the book. Unless you really are trying to send a message here, I don't know why this wouldn't fall under that same umbrella and that same, playbook, so to speak, that you've been using for almost 2 decades. You just deflect it. Hey, not the time right now. Time and place for that. We'll get to all that. I don't care. Who knows? Mike Tomlin's the king of inventive quotes. To just walk away, that's a message sent.
Yeah, message that this is not working. What's the difference? They lost the game. What do you care if you're a Steelers fan if Mike Tomlin doesn't talk to the press?
Well, okay.
I mean, this is honestly, you should be upset by what happened this season with the Steelers. I want to see Mike Tomlin angry because they had a great opportunity to be good this year, and they completely blew it. Mike Tomlin blew it. He had Matt Canada, the offensive coordinator, stick around way too long. And then he went to Trubisky. If they had just gone to Mason Rudolph after Kenny Pickett, they'd probably have a home playoff game.
It's possible. You're right. Mike Tomlin, it's a lot of self-inflicted wounds. But here's the thing. Like, you just made this about yourself. Because there have been drips and drabs and reports coming out from credible people like Jay Glazer and Adam Schefter that Mike Tomlin's future is up in the air. So say it. Are you upset you don't have a new contract and you're going into the last year? Maybe he feels disrespected by the Steelers organization. Do you want to take a step back and maybe do TV for a year or just take, maybe a burnout or whatever? Totally fine. To just walk off like that, and then you leave everyone in the locker room to have to answer for you, which is the exact opposite thing that a coach always tells players not to do. And you left everybody hanging here. So you either have a reason for doing that. It's either because you want to leave, you want to be traded, or because you are upset with the organization.
What's the difference, though? They lost. If you're a Steelers fan, what do you care? You saw it on the field. All you care about is that you walked away with the L.
Yeah.
And you had no TJ Watt, by the way, so of course you lost that game. They had no chance. They had no prayer at all.
Yeah.
What are they, 0-10 without Watt?
1-10, yeah.
1-10. So
1-11 now.
And you had a backup quarterback. It's just been a mess there. Honestly, I want somebody to go in there and shake it up. And I think Tomlin is saying, like, this is unacceptable. The whole situation is unacceptable. And he's just sort of dropping a bomb here.
The whole thing's unacceptable. It's you.
I know.
You're the person presiding over this. If it's unacceptable, then look in the mirror. And then to make it, see, here's the thing. You make it about the X's and O's, great. You should be disappointed. You should talk about all of that. You should say how much, that this was a missed opportunity because this could be a Super Bowl roster. You just made it about you and your contract and your future. That's where I feel like coaches talk out of both sides of their mouth. It's like, don't be a distraction, all pull in the same direction. And this was, walking off the podium like that is not about team and X's and O's. That's about you. And that's a message to somebody. And I have to imagine it's either the Rooney family or I have no idea. But it's a message to someone that probably got received.
So I think you're saying there's a question asked to him about his personal contract situation, and he said, we're not doing that. That's about him? That's exactly not about him. He's saying, I only want to talk about my team, not about my...
He didn't say that. He walked away.
The question was, you have one year left on your contract. He's like, I'm not talking about me and my contract. And also, come on, don't you want your coach to be fired up and angry and emotional and depressed and all this stuff after a loss? What do you want him to just sit up there and say, like, okay, yeah, accept this? No, he's saying, this is ridiculous. This is unacceptable in Steeler land.
Okay, but I think you're confusing people because he actually didn't say any of that. He just walked off.
He said, that's his actions speak stronger than words. We're not talking about me and my contract. This is a team sport. It's not about my contract.
I would love to know what the Steeler fans think because it's not like this is coming out of total left field.
But wait, I don't
there's
understand.
been questions about his future.
All the reports, obviously he has a lot of reporters in his pocket, and he let it out there that he considered walking away.
Yeah.
The other reports are the Steelers were never fired. Everybody reputable said the Steelers are never going to fire Mike Tomlin. What does he need money for? I don't understand. Why is there a contract issue with Mike Tomlin?
Well, this is why contracts, it's not about the money. He's got enough to live and generational and all that. But it's the message to the locker room when you have guys who are under contract longer than the head coach. Because it's like, who's going to be here longer, me or you? And that undercuts a head coach. And so I get it. If indeed, and I don't know if I'm reading this right, but if indeed this was a message to the front office, I get why he might be upset. Listen, don't leave me in limbo with 1 year left on my contract. Like, if you want me, let's get this thing done.
But the front office also leaked 1 million times that this is Mike Tomlin's job as long as he wants it.
Okay. But they also, from what it seemed like, it was the ownership who fired Matt Canada. And Tomlin wanted to not make it look like he was, scapegoating his offensive coordinator, did not want to fire him, was obstinate about it. And the way that it seemed that day was this was from above Mike Tomlin that ownership said, you got to get your offensive coordinator out of here. That's different, man.
I'm crediting ownership for that move.
Yeah. Well, you and everyone in Steeler Nation, you are welcome to weigh in on this at 855-212-4CBS, 855-212-4227. Andrew Bogish is here.
Maggie, Perloff, good morning. Headlines are sponsored by Progressive Insurance. Drivers who switch and save with Progressive save nearly $750 on average. Call or click today and find out if we could save you hundreds on your car insurance. The lights are off in Philly. Jalen Hurts is now snug in his bed. He and the rest of the Eagles can finally get the rest they so desperately need. Humidifier is on as well, so the dry heat doesn't disturb their slumber. It took them 7 long weeks, 6 losses to get here, but now they can finally relax and close their eyes.
Shotgun snap to Mayfield. Sets, throws, right side, catch at midfield. Breaking a tackle is Palmer. Down the right sideline. Veers across the field. He's going to go. He'll go all the way for the touchdown.
Kevin Kugler on Westwood 1. Trey Palmer running 56 yards through the Eagle defense, much like David Moore did in the first quarter. Palmer's TD removing any doubt last night in Tampa Bay. The Bucs cruising to a 32-9 win. They've won 5-6. The Birds close in a 1-6 funk. Nick Sirianni's team was once 10-1.
We'll all have to look ourselves in the mirror and accept that, and just find answers, find solutions. But obviously, when you start 10-1. And then you get into what happened for us. Obviously, that the expectations were high.
The Eagles managed just 276 yards. They were 0 for 11 on 3rd and 4th down, and they let Baker Mayfield throw for 337 and 3 scores.
Was that quote from last night?
Yeah, none of it matters.
Nick Sirianni sounded quite rational and reasoned there. Where's the, I thought he'd be crying. So telling Mike Tomlin is more fiery than Nick Sirianni?
Remember, Nick Sirianni's now made it a concerted effort to not show as much emotion on the sideline. Yeah, because he's really authentic.
But easy to do that when you're losing.
Do you know
getting your ass kicked?
No screaming in the tunnel.
Quick stat about the Eagles.
Waving goodbye to the fans.
Do you know the Eagles have failed to cover the spread in 8 straight games? That's not good, right? I don't.
How about they lost in 7 of them?
Yeah.
Just straight up lost.
It's more miraculous too. Vegas always adjusts on this, and they couldn't catch up with how bad the Eagles got.
And I said it was a stunning fall from grace, and you said no. It's like even Vegas couldn't catch up with that.
I mean, listen.
Bogusch is right. Now you get a lot of rest.
Well, Jalen Hurts needs to do something with that knee, and I think rest is the answer. I was actually like, yes, I mean, Bogusch, you're trying to get to me. You cannot get to me with anything on the Eagles. There's nothing. There's no raw emotion to make fun of here. This was over over 6 weeks ago.
Oh no, I'm making fun of the fact that you said that they were tired.
They were tired,
and zapped by the dry heat of Arizona.
Jalen Hurts is clearly worn out.
Yeah, when they were 10-1, they were fresh as daisies.
I mean, listen, the Chiefs have the same problem. They're exhausted
except
as well.
they're still playing. They won their game of their day.
Yeah, but they took about 9 months to figure things out. They're clearly having a Super Bowl hangover too. It's not easy to play into February. This is a tough sport, Bogusch.
Yeah, but
if your team's ever played into the postseason, you would know what this is like.
If I have a question for you though, what sport do the Bucs play? They also play football.
The Bucs have had tons of rest since Tom Brady left.
Tons of rest.
So
Baker Mayfield
they got destroyed by Dallas last year.
He probably got admitted to the hospital after that game. Did you see him walking around?
Yeah. Did you see last year in the playoffs? They gave up about 1 quarter in against the Cowboys with Tom Brady in his final season. So they had an extra month there.
This is when at some point when I hope to make $51 million a year and then I no-show at the most important game of the season, I hope somebody says, you know what, guys, lighten up on Maggie. She was exhausted.
Are you talking about Jalen Hurts? Jalen Hurts did not no-show last night. Look at his stat line.
They scored 9 points.
He was a miracle worker.
They got shut out in 3 quarters out of 4.
Players are screaming at him on the
right. That guy wanted to strangle him. What do you mean?
I mean, listen, he made a lot of plays last night.
Did he?
Yes.
Can you make a lot?
Otherwise.
Great plays.
Right. They should have scored, what, -6 points? How did they?
You have to understand, there's nobody. Who was he throwing to?
Well, Devontae Smith won the Heisman.
Yeah.
Devontae Smith. That's exactly who he was throwing.
Dallas Goedert did come back and, is playing through injury. Okay, you didn't have A.J. Brown. A trade at the time you called one of the worst you'd ever seen. You were upset about that trade.
Fly, Eagles, fly.
I said worst I've ever seen.
Right into the side of a mountain.
I mean, okay. Hurts in that situation last night, he was, 25 for 35, 250 yards, no picks. Actually, I think one was dropped. But anyway, it's pretty good.
Took a safety, scored 9 points, didn't convert a 3rd down against the Bucs.
Literally did not convert a 3rd down. They got one by penalty.
And you know how much the Eagles ran the ball to help him out?
That was not his fault.
2.8 yards a carry.
But if he's a great
nothing.
quarterback, I can't go to, well, we should have ran the ball more. Like, what does that mean?
Okay, great quarterbacks, if sometimes things crumble around them. It happened to Tom Brady with the Bucs last year. That team stunk. It happened to Patrick Mahomes this year. That team stunk offensively.
To be honest, Perloff, I mean, let's not invoke Brady here. Brady would never go 0 for 11 on 3rd and 4th down in a playoff game. You know that's the truth.
Look at his stats against the Cowboys last year.
Okay,
they got blown out the door.
Year of his career.
Or look at 2019 in the Patriots.
He's in year 25.
I'm just saying, you guys are.
And he was going through a divorce.
You guys are
retired
like everybody.
once.
Bury Jalen Hurts at your own peril. I'm telling you right now.
No, we're trying to bury you.
Yeah, no, Jalen Hurts we like.
It doesn't sound like you guys like him.
No, we do, but I just think that he's not above criticism here. I do like him, and I think he's talented. I think it was smart that the Eagles paid him, but he can't go scot-free here while everyone just keeps it all on Sirianni.
You can't score 9 points and be a $200 million quarterback. You can't. It's a playoff game. Like, you can't score 9 points on the road in a game that's a must-win game if you're a franchise quarterback.
Well, you can do it, but then you need to take the heat, not be getting a free pass for
running
it.
game. Or
take the heat. Like, what do you mean take the heat? So,
he's
what?
got to share in the blame.
Of course, he shares in the blame.
But
you
not
think he's
to you.
happy?
That's what we're pointing at.
The entire team fell apart yesterday, and honestly, at least Hurts and Devontae Smith were trying. I mean, there was at least effort there. And say what you want, he was hurt. He had a broken finger. He was wearing a glove for the first time in his life before the game. This was a bad situation, and he tried his best here. I'm pro Hurts. I like everything I see. And no, I'm not going to kill him. How can you walk away from that game and say, oh, the problem is the quarterback?
No, there were a lot of problems, but the backslide started weeks ago, and I think the quarterback clearly was upset and is backdoor sniping to ESPN. That doesn't help anything.
One more thing. You guys always say this thing about you got to get more out of a $50 million a year quarterback. You know only one quarterback's going to win the Super Bowl. So that means basically all the other $50 million quarterbacks are failures in your mind?
Well, no.
But you got to score more than one touchdown against the Bucs.
And not lose 6 of your last 7.
Right.
You were favored in the game. I know we said Vegas couldn't catch up with the Eagles, but it's not like you came in and it wasn't the Steelers who came in as a 10-point underdog, and you can't be shocked that they lost that game. And no, we don't criticize all $50 million quarterbacks because if Patrick Mahomes, say they lose in the divisional round, I don't think anyone's going to be like, man, that Mahomes really isn't living up to the contract. It's just not true.
Okay.
If Lamar Jackson, maybe Lamar will get criticized. I don't know. We'll see how this plays out. But
if Josh Allen loses the Chiefs, are you going to criticize him?
You guys call him not elite. I have to defend Josh Allen all the time on this show. You criticize him before he even had a chance to
lose the playoffs. That's ridiculous. You think the Bills are going to lose to every single team by 3 touchdowns, and we're like, Aggie, all of us predict the Bills as a Super Bowl team. You can't tell us that we're down on Josh Allen.
No.
You always
I have witnesses
you lost
here.
a bet to Stu that you said that the Bills are going to lose to the Raiders.
No, I said that they weren't going to cover. That's very different.
We're not doing the cover bets anymore, by the way.
EJ, you were not here. Trust me. Maggie early in the season thought that basically every single team was going to beat the Bills by 3 touchdowns.
Okay, but guys, this happened a couple weeks ago. I had to defend Josh Allen. You're asking me if he's actually elite because of the turnovers. And you're asking me what actually changed with the offensive coordinator change because you asked me that this morning. Josh Allen, you were just pointing out his touchdown-interception ratio to me this morning, saying that this is bad. He's taken a step back because Perloff refuses to put Josh Allen's rushing touchdowns as part of his overall stat line.
Well, to the Bills' credit, they don't pass the ball like they used to. They're just not as explosive, right?
Okay, so I said I have to defend him, and you're telling me, no, you're defending Josh Allen against me. That's not how this works.
So here are the $50 million quarterbacks. Burrow. Yeah. You guys, Patrick Mahomes. Okay. Justin Herbert. Do you guys kill him?
Yes.
Yes, he's gotten
absolutely.
A lot of heat. What do you mean?
Okay.
Tons of heat.
Lamar Jackson, $52 million.
He gets a lot of heat.
And will get a ton of heat if they lose this weekend.
He got heat before he even got the contract. People said he wasn't.
Jalen Hurts, Aaron Rodgers.
I mean,
come on.
Yeah.
He's Russell, in a different category. Russell Wilson, people think he's not going to make the Hall of Fame now.
That's my point exactly. That all these $50 million quarterbacks you give them all heat. So basically, I can't kill Jalen Hurts when you're killing all these other $50 million quarterbacks. Only one quarterback wins the Super Bowl.
But only one of those quarterbacks you named lost 6 out of his last 7 games. And just lost in the first round of the playoffs of the Bucs.
Justin Herbert didn't even make the playoffs.
Right, and he got heat. That's my point.
You cannot say that just because one quarterback wins the Super Bowl every year that we give heat to everyone else because your quarterback lost the Super Bowl last year and got $200 million.
Right.
So
I thought you should win
that's
MVP.
the literal definition of you lost the game in the Super Bowl and you got this massive contract.
Right, that he fully deserved. You're telling me you would not have paid Jalen Hurts that money.
But again, once you get the money, the expectations on you do change.
Right. But I'm excited to have Jalen Hurts as my quarterback. That's all I'm saying. Like, yes, it has not looked good these last few weeks, but he was hurt. The defense fell apart. To put this all on Jalen Hurts, which it sounds like people might be doing. Not necessarily. I think that's overstating Hurts' role in this, and I think Hurts is going to be just fine.
But it did sound more like you were almost saying he played pretty well. Like you were going to his numbers, and I'm like, you can't say he played well last night. You can't say that.
In that circumstance, he did what he could.
Okay, but that's not enough.
He didn't miss a single open guy, I'll tell you that right now. Because there was
I was going to say, wait, where were the open guys? Okay, what else do we have here?
The Bills won yesterday, 31-17 over the Steelers. And LeBron and Anthony Davis combined for 52 points. Their Lakers snapped the Thunder's 4-game win streak, 112-105 in L.A. And now right back to you guys.
Bogish, thank you so much. Got a lot more to do, including Bill Belichick goes on his first interview outside of New England, of course. Who was it with? And is this a realistic destination? We'll get to all the details in a moment. Maggie and Perloff, CBS Sports Radio.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. 1 minute remaining. $45 seconds remaining. $30 seconds remaining. $15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Okay, I think if there's some kind of like internal fine for the show,
okay,
Perloff needs to be fined, like conduct detrimental to the show.
Okay.
Because he just said it in the break. What did you just say to me 2 seconds before we turn the mics back
You're
on?
more down on Josh Allen than the rest of us.
No, the other thing you said just now.
Oh, I owe you an apology.
No, the other thing. We talked about a lot in the break. You just said, he turns to me and he goes, so you really don't think Josh Allen's ever going to get hurt? How do you say that to a person when their team just moved on to the divisional round? That's like putting a jinx on someone else's team.
Because I've watched enough football, it's the same problem. Mobile quarterbacks all suffer the same fate in the history of the NFL. That was a style question. You don't think it's a problem that the Bills rely on Josh Allen's legs so much?
You should not be able to say that to somebody who you consider a friend on the day that their team
Get out of here.
Gets to the divisional
We're
round.
talking about styles and quarterbacks. Listen,
he does get hurt.
The Bills, but the gist of this argument where you were defending Josh Allen, the elite conversation is the Bills need to protect him and bubble wrap him and have a passing offense and not run him like he's a fullback because that only lasts for so long.
Well, welcome back to the show, by the way. Maggie, great. Andrew Perloff. Yes, we were talking about me defending Josh Allen, that he is an elite quarterback, which was a conversation that was happening in sports media. And I did go back and find the clip where Perloff says Josh Allen is not elite.
Elite, all-time elite.
He didn't say it. And so I was defending Josh Allen. I'll defend him again. And here's the thing. It's this time of year. And so this is the time of year when everything's got to be on the table. And you saw it last night when Allen breaks off a 50-plus yard touchdown run, which was exciting.
Yeah.
But there are other times when you are going to be in 3rd and 6. You're going to be in 3rd and 8. And you're going to have the defense maybe drop back a little bit on these 3rd and long situations, and he's going to have to take off. You have to live with that. Like, that's to try to make him or the team be different this time of year, I think is a fool's errand. And you're not at full strength if you're telling him to just stay in the pocket.
Yeah, I just think they run him too much.
Well, I mean, yeah, you can have that tape.
You don't want to see your quarterback run 17, 18 times a game when he's worth $50 million. Allen is huge, and everyone thinks he's totally like Big Ben, that he can do it. Maybe he can, but NFL history does show that does not work. Cam Newton was amazing, but eventually people just started to slow him down and hit him illegally.
No, you have to slide more if you're Allen, but that's not the conversation I want to have today about Josh Allen. That's a conversation you have in September and October.
I'll be honest. Perloff, not guilty.
That is
not
guilty, EJ.
No, because it's in the context of the conversation about a team that is playing in the playoffs.
Oh, come on.
And Josh Allen, the way he plays, I don't think that's an unfair question.
But
we're talking about the day after they win a game. You can't come to me with he's going to, you can't run him, he's going to get hurt.
Thank you. Jets fans and Eagles fans unite. Let's go.
This is Vince McMahon and Stone Cold shaking hands after WrestleMania.
We are you're kind of the AFC version of the Eagles, and we're the NFC version of the Jets.
Coming up, we will dive more into the Bills game. Can they beat the Chiefs in Buffalo this weekend?
You're in a 5-minute break. 4 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
He thinks Frisbee golf is the sport of the future. She's sticking with football. They are Maggie and Perloff on CBS Sports Radio.
Here's the snap. Blitz coming. Allen steps up in the pocket, going to take off and run. Has the first down and more. To the 40, to the 35, 30. Breaks away. 20, 10, 5. Touchdown, Josh Allen.
There you go. That made it 21-0. Made a little bit more of a game in the second half, just a little bit. The Steelers did play tough. Mason Rudolph started to get a little bit of a rhythm in the second half, and that was aided by some Bills injuries on the defense. Welcome to the show, by the way. Maggie Gray, Andrew Perloff. So the Buffalo Bills do move on. Interesting game, right? I think being overshadowed by questions surrounding the future of Mike Tomlin. But when you watch what you saw on the field yesterday, Perloff, the Bills were a heavy favorite in this game. And outside of the injuries, I think they showed this was like a good kind of, I don't want to say warm up for the playoffs because that would be disrespectful to the Steelers, and I wouldn't want to do that. Mm-hmm. But to think about getting Kansas City next, and if I do this from a Buffalo Bills perspective, this does kind of get you in a rhythm of making sure that you are going to keep committing to the ground game and try to continue to put together long drives where Josh Allen doesn't turn the football over.
Well, I mean, that's what you've been asking for going back 2 years is commit to the ground game. It's funny that they're doing it now. When TJ Watt didn't show up, when he wasn't in uniform, I think the Steelers lacked some confidence. I think there was a moment in the second half they're like, whoa, we could actually maybe win this game because they came out and the Bills obviously just gashed them the first two drives. Felt like the Steelers defense gave up a little bit. Did you get that sense that they weren't really into it, which is weird for a Steelers defense? I think that was lack of confidence because of TJ Watt. I thought the Bills looked okay. Like this was just like you've been telling me all year, like they'll let anybody back into the game because the Patriots, almost beat them. The Chargers came back into the game. It does feel like for some reason they can't keep that first quarter intensity up. What's going on there?
Well, a couple things. You didn't have the signature Josh Allen turnover in this game, or else it would have been even closer. And believe me, as a Bills fan my whole life, was I waiting for that turnover to happen. Never came, to their credit, never came. And I think that they've had trouble putting games away, and the defense just keeps losing player after player. I mean, you're talking about being down to your second and third string. I kid you not. The player for the Bills who led them in tackles in last night's game was on his couch in Charlotte, North Carolina, preparing to take his family on a vacation to the Florida Keys when he got a call from the Bills, hey, by the way, we actually need you, and then led the team in tackles last night. That was A.J. Klein, who had been, basically, removed from the practice squad back in December. 5 defensive starters who played Week 18 against the Miami Dolphins for Buffalo are now injured. Now, we'll see if they get some of those players back. But my bottom line going away from this game, from the Bills' perspective, is they can beat the Chiefs.
Well, that being said, by the way, if the players who are getting hurt are not good in the first place, is that the same? Because half of these guys are backups that got hurt. So here's one big question.
Terrell Bernard had been playing excellent. He is not bad. Taron Johnson can be a little... Christian Benford. These guys are players that the Bills have been counting on defense.
But how many of those guys were started the season as backups?
A few.
What's the
depth of this team has been tested on defense.
What's the deal with Rasul Douglas?
He looks like he's going to be able to play.
So he'll try and cover Rashee Rice. Here's the thing. I think this is working out great for the Bills because the Chiefs, we got a little bit confused by their offense looked good against Miami in the freezing cold on Saturday night. This offense has been bad all year long. There's just no way the Chiefs are going to explode and blow them out here.
Well,
this is going to be a close. I mean, how? Show me one game this year where the Chiefs offense has looked dangerous.
They don't, but I'll give you this. Whenever it's Mahomes, you got to respect that on the other side because Mason Rudolph at times was able to pick apart. At times in the second half was able to find some holes in the Bills' defense. What do you think Mahomes does with that? I mean, Mahomes is surgical. Now, I do think the Bills are catching them at the right time. Finally, the Bills get them at home. So let's see what it's like. Arrowhead is one of the great home field advantages that they have in the NFL. The crowd is super into it, and they make a difference. Let's see now what it's like, to put that team on the road, to put Andy Reid maybe in some uncomfortable situations where he has to make, he's making decisions at the end of the game. Let's see what happens there when you're doing that on the road. And this is a Chiefs offense that has looked out of sync. So for the Bills, this is the perfect time for them to try to get a little revenge. And, again, can the defense hold up? We'll see. But as far as the offense, this has got to be like the Bills' offense has got to win this game. You cannot put it on the defense to try to contain Mahomes or whatever. The offense has to go out and win this game.
See, I think your mindset there is going to get in trouble because you don't want Josh Allen to be over-aggressive, and the Chiefs can't score on anybody. They haven't scored 30 once the second half of the season. That was against the Raiders. They do not score.
Listen,
they
I didn't say anything about being
There's no
over-aggressive.
dangerous receivers. I would do what you're doing last night.
Yeah.
I would hand the ball to James Cook.
Same.
I would have Josh Allen run. I think you're fine. I would not start chucking the ball downfield. So that's why I'm saying don't make the offense win it. I think your defense is good enough to contain the Chiefs because anybody can contain the Chiefs right now.
No, what you need, I didn't say be over-aggressive. I don't want them to start going for these explosive plays. And we'll see what happens with the weather. That might play a factor in this too. But I'm talking about what you saw last night, which is for the first touchdown drive for the Bills was a 10-play drive. The third touchdown drive, that was an 8-play drive, and Josh Allen ends up ripping off that big touchdown. You're talking about a 45-yard field goal that they kick at the end of the third quarter. That was a 14-play drive that took up 7 minutes and 18 seconds of clock.
That was the most important drive of the whole game. Rudolph was starting to feel it a little bit, get confident, and then he had to sit there in the cold for 10 minutes.
It was 21-10. And then the Bills go on a 7-minute drive to make it 24-10. I think you're right about that. And then the final touchdown was a 7 plays that took almost 4.5 minutes. So it's got to be that kind of stuff that's got to happen if the Bills are going to actually win here.
I will say one thing. The Chiefs' defense is legit now.
Yeah, they are.
They're really good. Nick Bolton's back. Chris Jones is great. I think it'll be a little tougher. The Steelers without Watt, I just felt like that was not a Steelers defense that we know. So I think this could be a strange, slug it out defensive game. So the complete opposite of the 13-second game where nobody could stop anybody. It's going to be both teams have changed their style, ironically. Now, you did get me a little panic because I thought the Bills had a great chance to win, but you came in this morning and you listed the injuries 3 or 4 times. That's got to be the biggest fear if you're a Bills fan, that you're way down on your depth chart on defense.
It's ridiculous how they are patchworking this together. Yeah. Now, what's kind of, I guess, been a little fortuitous for the Bills is that most of the injuries have happened in the secondary. That's not fortuitous against Patrick Mahomes, but at least the pass rush is still able to get home a little bit. Now, again, against Mahomes, he'll eat you up. So I don't know.
The old Mahomes. But here's the thing. I think casual fans, you list these injuries, Tyrell Dodson, Terrell Bernard, Taron Johnson, everyone's like, who, what, who, where's Von Miller? Where's Rasul Douglas?
Great question. Where's Von Miller?
Where's Greg Rousseau, who actually had a big sack? Yeah.
Ed Oliver. I mean,
Ed Oliver. Well. Yeah. I don't know. Like, I think the batters are going to be like, this guy's injured? What do I care about that?
You should care because that's the thing.
If you follow it closer.
If you don't know who the injured guy is, there's no shot you know who his backup is. I mean, and listen, it's one of the great stories in all of football, maybe for the rest of our lives, Damar Hamlin and his recovery, but I do not want to see Damar Hamlin on the field.
Well, at least Damar Hamlin's played NFL games. I mean,
Damar is, again, he'll be an all-time Buffalo legend forever, and that is an amazing story, but he was already a third string and safety, and he can't play a lot.
Well, he started.
Cam Lewis, can't play a lot.
He started a lot of games last year.
Only at the end of the year when the injury started.
If you took the near-death experience out of there, you would not be. Damar Hamlin would not be the guy on this defense you'd be worried about because there are plenty of other backups who have not that much experience. You just said they got a guy. If you get Douglas back, because I think Rashee Rice is the only receiver on the Chiefs. Shut him down, and who's going to? And Kelsey's going to gash you in the middle, but they are so unscary on offense right now. I
mean, Kelsey, listen, there's PTSD there with Bills fans and Kelsey. Just as much as Tyreek Hill. But for sure, I mean, Kelsey is still a game breaker. I know that he's not having a great season, but look what happened with Miami. I mean, that was a super negative 30-degree game, but Kelsey still was a difference maker in that game. He's their most important receiver.
Yeah, but there's nobody on the outside who scares you. That's why the Buffalo is not terrible. They're injured cornerbacks. I mean, I could cover Justin Watson. Is it that hard?
I don't know. Can we hear from Khalil Shakir talking about the Josh Allen 52-yard touchdown run?
I was on the sideline and my hands were on my head and I was just jaw dropped, just like, no. I was just like, wow. Plays like that, man, he's just a freak of nature. He's a guy that can make anything happen at any given time. And when you got a guy like that on your team, especially leading the team at quarterback, I mean, shoot, good luck.
Yeah. let's not overcomplicate this thing. We can talk about third string down the depth chart on the defense, and that will end up playing a role in the game against the Chiefs, but don't overcomplicate it. It's this version of Josh Allen that's the best one. It's the
running version.
The running and the don't have to, and also finding Dalton Kincaid, finding Knox, finding Stephon Diggs for a massive third down conversion last night where the play looked absolutely dead in the water. Those kinds of things. That's what's going to be the difference in this game. I can X's and O's you, and we can stat you to death, and we can depth chart you to death. It's going to be about Allen in this game, and we know it. It's going to come down to Allen and Mahomes.
Someone's going to take a shot at him.
Chris Jones.
If he runs like that 52-yard run, I mean, the Chiefs are going to watch that film and be like, all right, let's get this guy.
I know.
Which is interesting. Also, do you spy him?
Actually, it's a good strategy. I mean, I'm not in favor of dirty play, and I would never advocate for that, but I would get why they'd want to take shots at him. That's what everyone tried to do with all good quarterbacks, right?
Yeah, and he's such a big target, but he's been invulnerable. Whatever. I'm not wishing Josh Allen an injury. What really interests me is this two tight end attack that you saw early with Knox and Kincaid. Because I last year I was watching the Bills. I'm like, well, if you just cover Diggs, and what's the big who you scared of?
Well, Gabe Davis was a thing, kind of, but not really.
It just felt like kind of like CeeDee Lamb and the Cowboys, where Stephon Diggs was the only really reliable weapon to me. Now it doesn't feel that way.
Well, that's also part on the quarterback, right? Because we talked about Dak Prescott with the blowout loss that the Cowboys suffered at the hands of the Packers. How much was Dak just zeroing in on CeeDee Lamb? It was like he wasn't even trying to look off, safeties and stuff. It was crazy.
CeeDee Lamb's his only good receiver.
I know, but Josh Allen used to do that.
Right? Oh, with Diggs,
He used to do that with Diggs, and sometimes still does, and earlier in the season still did. But this new offensive coordinator, the changes have been stark. You might look at the numbers and be like, oh, it's not that different. Watching the games, the rhythm and the play calling does feel different.
Oh, absolutely. Joe Brady, this is, right, who finally got the run game, and it's almost as if Maggie Gray was coaching the team now. They're being
I got a direct line to the coach's box.
Also, too, I'm curious, though, down 2 touchdowns, say that ever happened, will Josh Allen fall back on those risky throw habits?
Absolutely.
So the beginning of the game is important. It just, oh man, I'm happy for you because it feels like it's laying out to give you a really good chance this year, which it did not feel like that 8 weeks ago.
Well, okay, I'll give
At
you
least
that.
you're in a home playoff game against the Chiefs. You never would have saw that coming. This is, and it feels like the Bills have whatever. I understand these injuries, but it feels like they took a lot of blows early in the season. They've landed on their feet and they know who they are, or am I imagining that?
They have a bit more of an identity now than they did probably earlier in the season. It's possible. The defense is still a mixed bag, but to their credit, like they've had all these injuries and they still have continued to win. They've come a long way from the 12 men on the field against Denver. I mean, that was easily the low point of the season. They've been essentially playing de facto playoff games for over a month and a half.
Yeah, that's a good formula.
I don't know. Sometimes I think that wears guys out, or maybe you get some confidence. I can't say anytime you have to face Patrick Mahomes, I can't say things are laying out nicely for you, but they do have a home playoff game. It's all you can ask for. They're a slight favorite. That doesn't mean much, though.
We were talking about the hit piece on the Eagles on ESPN this week. You notice the Bills have not lost since Ty Dunn's hit piece on Sean McDermott.
Does Ty get a ring?
Possible they rallied around their coach after the outside world came after them. I mean, for bizarre statements by Sean McDermott.
He should have never said anything like that.
But it does seem like Sean McDermott's a weirdo, but maybe they're rallying around him.
Yeah, and what Sean McDermott said, he was evoked the 9/11 terrorists, saying that's how teamwork. That's an example of teamwork. I mean, geez, how tone deaf.
We all read that article.
Be.
Reading that article was like an NFL coach has a job who could say something that's stupid, but they've won since then.
Well, and also it was years ago. Like if that had been this offseason or this training camp, maybe it would have been different, but it did happen several years ago, so maybe people had actually moved on and passed and forgave him. You're right. I mean, what do teams love? I know you think bulletin board material doesn't really exist, or you think that's kind of lame if a professional athlete needs bulletin board material, but there is something about closing ranks. Maybe there is something about a little like, hey, they're trying to throw dirt on us. I don't know. It's hard for me to say that because they almost lost to the Chargers. They almost lost to the Patriots for the second time. It's not like they've been steamrolling through the schedule here. And listen, they basically let the Steelers back in this game.
Yeah, I mean, they let Miami creep around in that Week 18 game for no reason.
That was Tua. They were driving to go win the game. If Tua doesn't throw that pick, that maybe this whole thing is different.
I got to tell you, I'd rather be me and dead for the season than have to deal with the roller coaster that is the Bills. It must be tough because you really don't know.
Thank you.
We're looking at the
understanding my
We're
pain.
looking at the divisional round. There's 4 games that are 3 of them are big spreads. I said to you last night, I'm like, well, which team you think is going to get the bad call that's going to cost them the game? You know, this game, Kansas City, Buffalo are mirror images of each other. The officials have been terrible all playoffs long.
So bad.
And you know that particularly when these two teams get together, something bizarre happens. Are we ready for the text? I can't believe that call happened. It's going to happen. This is going to be the best game. It's going to come down to the last minute, and there's going to be a flag that is someone's going to advance. I'm telling you right now how this is going to play out.
I mean, there were some terrible calls last night. I never understand. There hasn't been that smoking gun call yet, although George Pickens did say he felt like that the Steelers had to play the Bills and the refs. I get what he's talking about. He was definitely held on a play late in the game. I don't think that lost the game for them, but he certainly has a gripe there.
Yeah.
I never understand why the NFL does this, which is they have officiating crews that work together in like little crews all season long, and they get graded out on how they officiate the game. And then in the playoffs, they mix and match everybody to do these quote-unquote all-star crews. But that's like, you know, how like all-star teams, you don't have the chemistry, you don't have the connection, you don't have the shorthand communication that you would build up over a season with your own crew. And you saw it last night when there was a controversial call on whether or not Dalton Kincaid, he did get fouled, but was it a catchable ball? Was it Kincaid? It was Kincaid.
Yeah.
And the officials are huddled together like they're gesturing to each other. It looked so bizarre, and they're really just waiting for New York to make the final say.
There has to be some change in the protocols because I think there are a lot of fans who are upset about how NFL refereeing has been.
Yeah.
And it's for stuff like that. Now, I don't think anyone could argue Dalton Kincaid was held. But the problem was clearly they threw a flag because they wanted to call pass interference. And they couldn't throw that flag because clearly the ball was uncatchable. They didn't know on the field whether or not he was held before the ball was thrown. So they're sitting there, and it just looks fishy. You're sitting there in a huddle. You're gesturing. You don't know what's going on. Fans don't know what's going on in the stadium. Fans at home don't know what's going on because they're just sitting there saying, finally, it took Romo or Nance 2 minutes there. I think they're talking to New York. It looks fishy. Then you throw the flag out. There's something with the optics that look bad. You can't have a play like that happen where it takes 5 minutes to throw a flag for an uncatchable pass, and then George Pickens gets held on a catchable ball, and you throw no flag.
Yeah.
I'm okay with the right call, though. That's the thing with instant replay and Sky judges in New York calling in. You're going to have to wait. And
but
I think it's too important.
They have reviews that take 2 seconds.
Well, the other part, too, is it kind of felt like they went in between on the call.
Yeah.
They didn't give him the spot of the foul because they couldn't because Josh Allen threw the ball in the second row of the stands. It was not catchable, but they still gave him a 5-yard penalty.
If I was a Steeler fan, what that looked like to me was you were trying to find a way to give them a flag, and you don't want it to look like that.
Terrible.
That's the problem.
There's
the optics.
I agree.
I think Miles Jack, it was on Miles Jack, right?
Who was awful last night.
He was so awful.
He was basically retired twice, guys.
I know.
Yeah, send him back to
talking about
retirement.
coming off the couch. Like, you had to call something because that was such a poor defensive play. It's such a poor effort by him. I'd rather slow down. I understand it looks clunky, but what if they could have slowed down and called that hold on Pickens? Then Steelers fans would have been, or pass interference on Pickens, then they'd be okay. That's the thing with Sky Judge. You have to wait. So, by the way, and I think they mix up the crew so Brad Allen doesn't have to be there.
He's on the sideline. Did you notice?
Oh, is he there?
Had him he had like a face mask thing because it's so cold, but that's his eyes.
Yep.
He was on the Steelers sideline because they give extra refs.
Oh, he was the second.
He's like the designated
alternate.
Steelers. Like if Mike Tomlin needs to,
Did he do the Bills
kvetch about
Dolphins
something.
game too, or he had a big game in Week 18? I think it was the Bills. Anyway, he's still
he had
around.
one of the Saturday games.
Yeah, I
I think it was the Steelers Ravens.
Steelers Ravens.
Yeah, oh, right.
It was
Okay.
like they gave him the rain game. Like,
I
it
knew it was a
punishment.
primetime game that was a standalone
Right, people
game.
are like, why is he doing a national TV game if that would just happen?
I saw him. I was like, something bad's gonna happen.
How did you recognize Brad Allen?
This is the weird part about being our jobs. I think I can
You're saying
recognize
Brad
referees.
Allen was wearing a mask, and you're sure it was him?
I don't know. Let's go. Let's find the image. It's got to be on the internet somewhere. That is a sad state of affairs. I always think about this. I once forgot my best friend's birthday, but I could recognize Brad Allen was on the sideline. It's like, where are your priorities?
Oh yeah, okay, you're right. Controversial referee goes viral during playoff game. Yeah.
He's sitting right there talking to Mike Tomlin.
I got a radar up for bad refereeing. Don't we all? 855-212-4CBS. The funniest moment from the Bills Steelers yesterday. We will get that to you. It is sound. It is glorious. It's from the mouth of Jim Nantz. 855-212-4CBS. You are welcome to weigh in. Early look ahead, Bills, Chiefs. I think it's winnable for Buffalo. You know, guys,
You mean is there a field goal favorite?
I'm just saying. Go up against Patrick Mahomes.
Is there home against a team that can't score more than 24 points?
When you put it like that.
By the way, you have to know, if you don't know Maggie, to say that this game is winnable is a gigantic step in the right direction.
Thank you. I feel like I deserve some progress here.
Yeah.
Baby steps.
But I do worry that you're setting yourself up for a fall.
No kidding. 855-212-4CBS. The last 40 years of evidence. 855-212-4227. The funniest moment from yesterday's game is next.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. 45 seconds remaining. Seconds remaining. Seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
The Defensive Player of the Week is sponsored by the Navy Federal Credit Union, who proudly serves the armed forces, DoD veterans, and their families. Their members are the mission. Learn more at NavyFederal.org. I mean, it has to be NFL football. But it's funny, Maggie, I was going through in my head the games. Was there really a defensive star? It felt like we saw Jordan Love blow up. We saw, Kansas City was too cold. You can't give anybody there any credit. Last night, the Bills beat Mason Rudolph. I don't have a guy who stood out. I'm blanking out here.
I mean, somebody from the Texans would probably have to be. You had 2 interceptions.
Yeah.
Steven Nelson, Christian Harris. I think those would be the 2 guys. I would maybe co-defensive.
Joe Flacco kind of hit them in the chest.
Well, I didn't drop it.
I mean, same thing with the Packers and Dak Prescott. I don't know. I'll go with one of the pick sixes.
Did EJ go with like someone from the New Orleans Pelicans who got 20?
Australian.
By the way, dying. Looks good.
He's looking a lot better, I know. This week's Defensive Player of the Week is Aiden Hutchinson, who had 2 sacks.
Good call.
And was dominant in the Lions' first playoff win since 1992. I am sentimental to guys who put on for their city, and Aiden Hutchinson, born in Plymouth, played high school in Dearborn, so he's from the Detroit area, and their first playoff game in however many years and their first playoff win since 92, he was an absolute stud. So when you show up like that in that big moment for that city, you get Defensive Player of the Week.
Yeah, not to mention the Wolverines.
Yes, and of course, Michigan Wolverine legend.
By the way, interesting X and O thing. The Rams could not figure out how to slow that guy down. The Bucs are probably going right into the film room. It feel like that is the entire defense. Like, I couldn't understand. I kept saying, put 3 guys on him, and I don't even know any other pass rusher there. He's great.
It was a good call, EJ, for sure. Let's hit the phones, 855-212-4CBS, before we get to the funniest moment from Bills Steelers last night. Is this Levi? Levi is in Fayetteville, Arkansas. Hey, Levi, how you doing?
Pretty good. Staying warm. How you guys doing?
Yeah, the same here. Woke up to 4 inches of snow, which is always pleasant. What's going on today?
So I want to kind of comment on the wild card game between the Packers and the Cowboys. I mean, I've been a Cowboy fan since, who knows, too long, I guess. And I kind of grew up watching, Troy Aikman, Emmitt Smith, Michael Irvin, and just kind of level of play, it was like a big difference between a wild card game and, the team not showing ready, not showing any emotion.
Yeah.
Then, they want to get mad about fans criticizing the players. I mean, dude, you get paid millions of dollars to play a game.
Yeah.
I know it's your job. You practice this thing. You have to catch the ball. You have to run the football. You have to make the passes. I mean, and then, you criticize the head coach, and it's like, well, you don't know what you're talking about. And yeah, I am, because, for the past 5 years, they haven't done anything. So you have to move on from the head coach and find something else.
Yeah, but Levi, I think people, I don't know if the Dallas Cowboy players and coaches are getting sensitive to this thing. I think they are taking a ton of heat right now. I mean, and thank you for the phone call, and please call again, because Mike McCarthy has to be as good as gone. The problem about Dak Prescott is I don't know where else you turn.
Yeah.
This is not this does not feel like an asset that's going to be easy to trade. And even if you could trade Dak Prescott, who are you getting to replace him that's going to be better than Prescott?
I mean, Dak Prescott, ironically, we're killing him. He's going to end up 3rd in MVP voting in the NFL. That's not nothing. Yeah, I think that I agree. You're stuck with Prescott. There's no other way. You're too good, and Jerry Jones is too old to draft a rookie, rip the Band-Aid, and start all over again. So you have to bring in an older coach, Belichick. and you have to hope you can win with Dak Prescott. I think you can. Here I am defending Jalen Hurts and Dak Prescott today. I think he's good enough. If you have the right coach, they just weren't ready to play against the Packers, right? That was on the coaching staff, not the quarterback.
Well, I mean, that's where you and I are going to differ. I'm going to put it on the coaching staff. I am going to put it on the quarterback. I mean, it's just different with Hurts because this has been this sort of free fall over the last couple weeks that we've watched. I wouldn't say Dallas no-showed the game. It felt like Philly no-showed.
Yeah.
Dallas, I think, got punched in the mouth a little bit by an opponent they may have underestimated. Maybe they thought it was going to be a walkover. I don't think the Eagles walked into that game last night with any intention of trying to win that game.
Well, the Eagles, I agree with that, but the Cowboys were at home against a very young Packers team. I think that could actually be a poll question. Which was more of a no-show? The Cowboys losing the Packers or the Eagles losing the Bucs? Because the Eagles had no chance last night. I told you that
I think
from day
they had no
one.
chance when they walked in the building. I actually think that the Cowboys did have a chance when they walked in the building and they got stunned a little.
Right.
And then snowballed.
Isn't that a worse no-show to actually be the favorite and a 7-point favorort? I think the Cowboys should be actually taking more heat. The Eagles,
that's a
as I kept saying,
stance
you're
for
kicking
you.
a dead body with the Eagles.
All right, let's put that to the poll at Maggie and Pearl on the Twitter.
Well, that's funny you mentioned that. As I said, there's no way Bogus, whatever he's going to say, can get to me. None of this can get to me because at least the Eagles did not lose in Dallas, which would have happened if it could have happened. So the Cowboys losing make things all that much easier for Eagles fans.
Here we go.
Here we go.
I mean, you're being real generous there. Okay, we said the funniest moment from the Bills Steelers. Nance and Romo are on one.
I mean, geez, the snow got to them.
It definitely got to them. So obviously there was a travel ban in Buffalo that they had to move the game from Sunday to Monday. And so here was Jim Nance saying that the travel ban made it hard for them to leave their hotel room, which reminded them of one of the scariest movies of all time, The Shining.
Because of a travel ban, a lot of us weren't able to even leave our hotel for 3 days. It was like The Shining.
In your bathroom.
Here's Tony. All work and no play makes Tony a very dull boy.
Amazing. Nance, somebody help him. This was a cry for help. Somebody get Nance help. He's sending us like subliminal messages, like blink once if you need a private jet out of there. I think that Romo's getting to him, man. Like, Nance is unflappable, and I know he loves Romo, but like Romo's got to be getting to him a little bit.
Not like they're in the same room. I mean, he's not exactly at the Motel 6 either.
No, not about that, Pete. That's funny. I mean, if they had to share a room.
So I don't know. We've seen the upstate Western New York hotel rooms, like to Maggie's show from up there. I don't know, Pete. That was apparently the best they had, and didn't look that good.
Come on, CBS. There's no chance he's staying in a room that looks like Alfred Hitchcock's going to pop out of somewhere.
All of a sudden, the twins is just like showing up with blood all over. No. Anytime you guys get to criticize my hotel room in Binghamton, I'm telling you, I was staying at the nicest place in town. Anyway, what I think is funny is Nance is starting to crack because Romo's jumping all over his calls. Like, he's doing all the things that they kind of tell you, like clinical kind of classic broadcasting you're not supposed to do. You're not supposed to jump the call. You're not supposed to introduce a new topic as you're going to break. You're not supposed to, like, be awkward in general, unless that's, like, part of your shtick. And Romo just breaks all these rules. And Nance, meanwhile, is the gold standard, or one of them, of play-by-play announcers in the history of sports. And Romo's here, like, just finger painting all over the thing.
Well, he sounded a little bit like Tony Romo. It's like when you hang around the Joker too much, and all of a sudden you start sounding like the Joker. You know, that weird, Tony, where the people play. I'm like, what is he talking about? What's he doing?
And you're trapped in a hotel for an extra, 36 hours in Buffalo. And I bet Romo is getting punch drunk, knocking on your door, bothering you. I'm with you. Like, he wants out. Nance wanted out.
Well, you guys got to give Romo. Romo is the voice of America, of conscious. Basically, his commentary on Martin Luther King was so deeply moving.
Oh, my gosh.
Actually, we have that.
Do we have that? I thought we weren't going to cut that.
Well, we have it.
To learn more, visit realizethedream.org.
What a day. Martin Luther King Jr. deserves to have a day named after him.
Thanks, Tony.
I like how it's taking this long to figure this out.
I think someone cut his mic.
No, I think he started talking, what a day, Martin Luther King. He's like, I got to bail. I am out of my depth. And I'm trying to think, if Tony Romo ever commented on anything societal, or does he even know there's a society out there?
Here's Tony.
If it didn't happen on the golf course, I don't think Tony Romo has any clue that it happened.
Yeah. I mean, if you're talking about the bunker at Riviera on hole 8, Tony Romo he's comfortable.
A lot of opinions.
If you're talking about race relations in America, Tony Romo, not your guy.
Deserves to have a day named after him.
Deserves to have a day named after him.
Here's Tony.
I think 40 million people were watching that game yesterday.
Martin. Not many
I love
guys
He knows that read is coming. That's what's so funny to me. If he knows that read is coming.
He can't help but chime in on everything because he's too outspoken. I love how he trails off at the end, too.
Yeah, just
deserves to have a day named after him. He's like, get me out of here.
Again, Nance has got to be dying over there because he's the one who's got to pick up that handoff and try to run it in for a score.
Here's Tony.
Romo's been dropping those lines all weekend in their Motel 6. You're lucky
Hey, Jim.
Nance even showed up on Monday.
Hey, Jim. Want to go to the vending machine?
That was the broadcasting version of the fumble snap by Romo right there. You just see him get the ball, fumble it, and try to make a move and not know what to do. That was that.
I think he's turning Nance into it's like Lloyd and Harry.
Yeah.
It's like big gulps, huh?
Right.
See
They
ya.
should be doing dodgeball on the other show.
Nance is
Jim, I got
clearly a
ice.
straight man. Nance is like the David Spade, and Romo is the Chris Farley and Black
Yeah,
Sheep.
it's
Like the funny thing too, then Joe Buck and Troy Aikman came on. It was like two former presidents speaking. They were so dignified compared. Did you guys notice
Meanwhile, Nance is the one who's actually hanging out with former presidents. Like he's the guy who's the presidential type.
Yeah, Nance could easily fit in with could do Aikman and Buck, but Romo is. You're right. You guys are so right. He's bringing him down.
You nailed it with it's like Tommy Boy. You know,
Yeah.
They got goobers.
It's like, your brain is a thick candy shell. It's like your brain is a shell. It's bad, man.
But we all love Tommy Boy, so maybe it's
he
good.
saved the company. I don't know what Romo's saving.
He's not saving
Jim.
the NFL.
Spectravision.
What game do they have next week? It's got to be
Of course,
Chiefs,
it's
Bills.
Bills.
Yeah.
Man, a close game. I'm excited now. I unlike you guys, like the end of John Gruden on Monday Night Football just because it's completely unpredictable. It's something to talk about the next day.
How about when Romo says it was a pass that was dropped that maybe the Bills, it bounced off the turf. One of the Bills players picks it up and just runs it back for the touchdown 15 yards. Just like to
I think it's a pick. I think it's a pick, Jim.
It's a pick. And he goes, well, I guess I should have known because all the players were just standing
That was so
around.
funny. He goes, they know. It was just like,
Why were you jumping around?
He also apparently learned of Jalen Warren yesterday, which
Well,
was pretty crazy.
So I might have to defend him on that one. He said something like, we haven't done a Steeler game all year. And boy, this Jalen Warren is really something. It's like, oh no. But what I think,
Look at this football.
I think what he meant to say is watching him in person was impressive.
But the thing that turned me off on that comment was he's like, wow, who would have thought they have a 1-2 punch?
Yeah, they should use him more.
They got a good quarterback. Hey, Jim, they got heated sidelines, too.
listen, what a guy. Martin Luther King Jr., he deserves a name to be. He deserves a day to be named after him.
Deserves to have a day named after him.
That sounds like some fourth grader in my classroom doing a book report.
No way. It would be better. That would be better than this.
And did not do the reading.
I know.
And is just winging it in front of the class.
Honestly, Tony, just plagiarize something. AI just generates. It's like about what should someone say about Martin Luther King? Just read it.
There is no chance he is doing a diorama. So the fourth grader is much better than him.
Oh, my God. I'm actually reading the exact quote. He started out with, what a day. What does that mean?
To learn more, visit realizethedream.org.
What a day. Martin Luther King Jr. deserves to have a day named after him.
Here's Tony.
Did Nance know he was doing the read for Romo? It was directed at Tony. Tony, go read this.
If you could have cut to them in the box, I think you're seeing Nance doing the throat slash. Like, no, don't say it.
He's trying to jump out the press box.
right through a Bills flaming table.
I was gonna say.
Right into a mound of snow.
Yeah, right into a snowbank.
One great thing about these high ratings for NFL football games is that all of America just their ears perked up and say, "What is Tony Romo? How is he going to finish this?"
There's no way he's going to land that plane.
I got 5 texts about that exact call, being like, "Oh my God, did you hear what Tony Romo just said?"
That's some email from Sean McManus. Hey Tony, it's Sean. Let's leave those topics alone. Stick to football, Tony.
I just said there's a term in broadcasting called laying out.
Tony Romo not familiar with it.
I don't think that's when you don't say anything. And I'm going to lay out right now and pass over headlines to Andrew Bogish.
Their season has ended twice in Kansas City recently. Now Maggie's and my son Jake's Bills get a chance to host the Chiefs in the playoffs.
5 on the play clock here on 2nd and 9. Takes the snap. Back to pass, fires over the middle, complete on a crossing route to Shakir, who gets away from the tackler, down to the 10, looking for the end zone, and he's in! Khalil Shakir did a disappearing act on the tackler, reversed his field, and found the end zone. Unbelievable!
Chris Brown on Bills Radio. Khalil Shakir's 17-yard tackle breaking run, the knockout punch yesterday afternoon. Buffalo fought off Pittsburgh 31-17 in their delayed wildcard game. Josh Allen threw 2 other touchdowns, ran for 1 as well. Now they sprint towards a Sunday night kickoff with those Chiefs.
It's going to take everybody this week. It's going to take, our training staff, our equipment staff, our strength room, and our cafeteria for getting our guys ready to go.
Everybody.
Wait, what?
The cafeteria?
Everybody. Trainers, cafeteria.
Well, I tell you, the equipment guy for the Chiefs screwed up with Mahomes' helmet, so maybe he's onto something.
They need to get off these equipment guys. Giannis Antetokounmpo last week talking about, the guy who cleans our uniforms got to get better. Like, no, it is you, Josh Allen.
Wait, no. This wasn't a complaint. It wasn't a complaint. He was saying we got to all chip in to get to Sunday. It's already Monday night.
I got to tell you,
equipment guy has nothing to do with it.
If it's a close game, the Chiefs equipment, they screwed up that Patrick Mahomes helmet thing so badly.
And he blamed them. He was like, "Oh, my helmet was frozen. The backup helmet." Come on, dude. No. It was a mistake. It happens.
Yeah.
Move on.
If Josh Allen doesn't get a smoothie, the Bills are going to lose.
I was going to say, what could the cafeteria people outside of poison him? What?
No, got to have the food ready.
I like it.
Cheese pizza ready.
It's called organizational excellence, and it starts with meatloaf in the cafeteria.
Hey, Jim, they have meatloaf.
What a day.
Here's Tony.
It's the most empty sentence ever. It literally means nothing.
What a day.
What a day.
Oh my God, I'm going to pee my pants. This is awful. Oh my God.
That was the most profound thought.
Here's the ball. Which part of the
million a
sentence is
year.
funnier? He deserves to have a day named after him. Oh, thank you, Tony.
Was anyone thinking about taking it away? I don't think so.
And maybe all the leagues can play matinee games that day.
Oh my God.
Maybe quote a speech or something.
No. Well,
There's no way that would work out well with Tony Romo.
No.
That happened elsewhere yesterday. It didn't go over well either.
No.
yeah, no. Can't do it.
No. So that was what the Bills winning. Oh yeah, the Bucks won too. They beat the Eagles 32-9 in Tampa Bay. Baker Mayfield 337 yards and 3 scores. He and the Bucks now play in Detroit on Sunday. The Boston Celtics know how to beat the Raptors. 8 straight wins head to head after last night's 105-96 final in Toronto. Jason Tatum 19 points, 14 rebounds, and 6 assists. And UConn's number 1 in the AP men's college basketball poll for the first time since 2009. Gonzaga unranked for the first time since the end of the 15-16 campaign. Guys, back to you.
Oh, Bogish, what a day. What an update.
What a day.
Coming up, Mike Tomlin's future thrown into chaos a little bit last night, considering how he responded to a question about his contract. We get to all that next. Maggie and Perloff, CBS Sports Radio.
You're in a 5-minute break. 4 minutes, 30 seconds remaining.
Technically, the Eagles season ended last night with a loss to the Bucs, but it was really over weeks ago. They lost 6 of their last 7.
Welcome back. Maggie Gray, Andrew Perloff. Maggie and Perloff on CBS Sports Radio. Perloff sad. I'm happy. This is what happens at this time of year. Perloff's Eagles lose last night to the Bucs as pretty embarrassing, not going to lie. And we get some news this morning, not unexpected, according to Adam Schefter, that Jason Kelce is telling teammates that he is going to retire. And listen, Perloff, I'll let you take this one. He's
first
the
of
center
all,
for your favorite team.
Jason Kelce is the most miraculous late career media empire that I've ever seen. If you told me 10 years ago that this gruff sort of everyman center was going to become this weird superstar whose brother's dating Taylor Swift, I would not have believed it. But I'm okay with his retirement because last night the Bucs, somebody got below him on the tush push and I couldn't believe it.
Yep.
His snapping has actually been kind of erratic. This was gravy on top that he was back this year because he really wanted to retire last year. And you always say once you think about retirement, you're partly retired.
Yeah.
So he was still great. Interesting. I think you could get a real debate about Hall of Fame, and I think he has a great chance.
I think he probably will go in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah. They like putting offensive linemen in the Hall of Fame, and he is everything you want out of an offensive lineman. Not super physically talented, but mentally just as tough as they come.
You're so right about the late season fame that he's gotten. I
bizarre.
mean, the podcast with he and Travis is like #1 sports podcast. But then beyond that, you know where I think it changed for him? When he wore that Mummers costume for the Philadelphia parade, it stood out. Because it's hard to stand out sometimes at these parades. We've kind of seen it all. Guys get drunk, they drop curse words, they dance, they catch beers from the crowd and chug them. Like we've kind of seen a lot. Tom Brady threw the little party trophy from one boat to the next boat. Kelce was a standout in that Super Bowl and also,
Gosh, I have to be honest. I'm a little surprised. I'm looking at his credentials. 6-time first-team All-Pro, which pretty much guarantees you the Hall of Fame.
No, he's in.
So that's really good. 7-time Pro Bowl. And everyone loves him.
Well,
as an Eagles fan, I'm a little worried. He is the heart of the team, but physically, I'm not sure that they can replace him easily physically, but mentally, this can be a tough one.
Well, I mean, and they drafted his replacement like 2 years ago.
Yeah,
so
Cam Jurgens.
I think you've been waiting for it. But the other part is this is not going to be the only guy.
I know.
This is going to be a theme now, I think, for the Eagles. Like, guys try to come back, give it one more run after falling short in the Super Bowl. But I imagine Fletcher Cox and Brandon Graham, and this is going to be massive turnover. And that does change if you are going to fire Nick Sirianni, which you believe the Eagles are going to do. Kind of changes the type of team you're coaching, right? Does it change at all the type of coach? Like, if it's Belichick, and if you're thinking about bringing Bill in, to turn over from a lot of those veterans, is that something he's interested in? A super young team?
All right, Belichick already interviewed with Atlanta. Interesting. That's a great point. When you put it that way, I say a younger coach like Vrabel who can build, who can grow with the team. They showed a graphic last night's game of Kelce, Brandon Graham, and Fletcher Cox all walking off a field. Oh my gosh, it hit me.
Yeah.
Because this is really the Super Bowl team is done. Lane Johnson is under contract. He's the other older guy. Man, this and the problem is they have major roster problems and there's no fix. They got to get 2 new cornerbacks. They got to get new pass rushers. So it's amazing. They were in the Super Bowl last year, Maggie. How can it all go away so quickly?
Well, life comes at you fast. And this is kind of the all-in mentality. And I hate to say this. I'm not trying to, put salt in the wound here, but it does become harder to roster build now that you've paid Hurts.
Oh, absolutely. But all in, they did get 1 Super Bowl win out of this group, and they got another appearance. This is going to sound like loser. I know you're going to. They did get a lot out of this. I don't feel like the Eagles went all in and got nothing out of this. This run has been good, combined with, and even Sirianni, if he gets fired today or tomorrow, I think people are going to look back fondly on Nick Sirianni's little 3-year stint here. We look back fondly. We fired Peterson really fast, and he's well liked. I don't think Sirianni's going to go down as some kind of villain. Like Rich Kotite. Everyone hated Rich Kotite.
Well, that's because he lost.
He lost, right. So Sirianni, I think Sirianni will be well thought of in 10 years. I bet he'll do appearances in Philadelphia.
Just wait a decade. We'll
right. And then we'll maybe forgive him.
Honestly, people love Doug Peterson, and they were more than willing to ride him out of town, and he's still popular.
They love Andy Reid now, too.
They're claim Andy Reid.
Yeah, why not? Big Red? Pass those nuggies, Andy Reid. I'm all in.
Don't mind if I do. 855-212-4CBS. Okay, we mentioned Mike Tomlin's speculation about his future took a turn yesterday.
You're in a 5-minute break. 4 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Seconds remaining. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Was the Heisman Trophy winner in 1986. He left her off the ballot. They are Maggie and Perloff on CBS Sports Radio.
Here's the snap, looking left, and now in the end zone, complete to Dawson Knox for the touchdown. Oh, he was wide open. He split the two defensive backs, and Allen hit him for the opening drive TD.
That was on Bills Radio. Buffalo advances to the divisional round. We get the matchup that we've all been salivating over. Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, another one. Maggie Gray, Andrew Perloff, welcome to the show. Listen, we have a lot of time to dissect Buffalo. They were a 10-point favorite in this game. The final score would make you think it was a little bit more of a blowout than it was. It actually did get a little snug. Now there's questions about Mike Tomlin's future, though, as the Steelers now have 4 straight first-round exits from the playoffs. They have not won a playoff game since 2017, which is, it's now 7 years that they have not won a playoff game. So there's been speculation from NFL insiders like Jay Glazer and Adam Schefter for a couple weeks, but it was mostly felt like Perloff, it was coming from the Tomlin side of things. Like, he might take a year off, or he might want to be traded. This latest playoff loss, I think, throws even more his future into jeopardy.
Yeah, I think the Tomlinites, for example, I think Jay Glazer said he wants to walk away or maybe do a year of broadcasting. Not necessarily that he wanted to coach another team. That was not my sense, that he's dying to coach another team. Like, which team would it be? He's not going to go to Atlanta. He's not going to take over the Chargers. That just doesn't feel right. I feel like he would need a year off. The guy's got to be burned out. He's been coaching forever. Yeah, I don't think this is about coaching another team.
Well, I think maybe he wants to see what life is like outside the organization. I have no idea, but maybe it's run its course with the Steelers. I don't think he liked, if indeed this is how it went down, I don't think he liked that ownership got involved and essentially fired Matt Canada. I mean, that's what the reporting was like out of Pittsburgh. I know.
If that's the case, then the Steelers are better off without him. There's no doubt about it. Matt Canada is the worst offensive coordinator I've ever seen. I don't understand. One thing about the Steelers, they have a very talented roster. Their GM, Omar Khan, is on a complete heater in the draft. So they've gotten, except for quarterback, they've done really, really well. So I think
that's a big one.
I have a plan, though.
Oh, you do?
Justin Fields has got to be the quarterback in Pittsburgh next year. Give up a second rounder. Just one second round pick. Forget all the Mel Kiper reports. No one's giving up a first rounder for Justin Fields. Give me a mobile quarterback. You're going to run the ball, and you're going to let that defense win games. Something, just do something radical there. I think it would re-energize Mike Tomlin. I think Kenny Pickett, Mason Rudolph, Mitchell Trubisky, that was not good. And the other thing, too, hire a good offensive coordinator. Can you do that for me, Maggie? Now, that being said, I don't know who a good offensive coordinator who's on the market would be. I think they're mostly swallowed up. But I think you could immediately turn this thing around with a young, good quarterback.
Well, Luke Getsy is out there. He was just fired as the Bears offensive coordinator. If you came with Justin Fields, maybe you keep a little continuity there. But I don't know if that's where the Steelers want to go. I'll agree with you about this. The quarterback for the Pittsburgh Steelers for next season is not on the roster right now. It can't be, because Kenny Pickett, they could have went to him last night, right? He's there for the game. I know that he was coming off of an injury, but he was still on the depth chart. They listed him as QB1 on the depth chart, actually.
Well, Rudolph had won 3 games in a row.
No, I get why they went with the hot hand.
There was no way they were going with him.
But you're down 21-7 at halftime. I know you scored right before the half, but I thought Mason Rudolph, listen, he wasn't helped by the couple fumbles by receivers, but why didn't they go to Pickett at all last night? I was really surprised. They didn't try something to change it up. I mean, the Bills were killing them in the first half.
Yeah, I mean, once Rudolph kind of got his footing, I think you could even argue he was the better quarterback in the game from the second quarter on. He was kind of hot.
Well, I would not say that, but
he was. But anyway, also the bar is so low for Pittsburgh to have any passing offense that I think he was so far and above what they've seen the last few weeks. He made some really nice throws last night, especially when he's targeting Pickens, which I think they need to do more of next year, whoever the quarterback is.
No, I get that, but yes, maybe Rudolph got into a little bit of a rhythm in the second half. That's also because the Bills' injuries and their secondary were mounting up. Like, that would have been stupid if they weren't trying to test that secondary more, because they were down to third and fourth string guys. But here's the thing, like, Kenny Pickett was the reason why you had won some of these comeback games earlier in the year. Again, he's coming off a surgery. I know that he was cleared. I was just surprised that they didn't at least try something a little bit different.
Gosh, I thought like Rudolph was feeling it. The only thing that kept him from winning that game was that the Bills had an 8-minute drive right when the rhythm was getting going for the Steelers. They just couldn't get the Bills off the field.
That's not the only reason why they lost the game.
Honestly, if they didn't have that 8-minute drive, I thought Rudolph was heating up. I think that game would have been a lot closer.
It might have been closer,
I think the
but
Bills,
the Bills
to their
were
credit, they kept the ball out of Pittsburgh's offense most of the second half.
No, they did, but to me, it's funny because the game did get a little bit tight in the third quarter. I'm not going to disagree with you there, but I never really felt like it was in jeopardy. And a lot of that reason I felt like was because of Mason Rudolph. In the first half, I thought he was not good. He was missing receivers. He was getting balls batted down at the line of scrimmage. I'm like, they stay with him, the Bills are going to win this game. And that's exactly what happened. As far as Mike Tomlin's future, though, we did get some illuminating quotes post-game from Najee Harris. So let's hear from Harris, we have that, yes, about what has to change this offseason.
In-house rules, not no changes or coach like that. It's just the rules that are in the building that, we got to be more disciplined. We got to be we got to be more committed. I'm not saying that we're not, but just coming from a place that has structure and coming just seeing we probably could get help in these areas. It might change. I think that's something we can help. I'm not saying nothing about coaches or anything like that. I'm just saying more of just in-house rules.
Yeah, see, this, you know what this reminded me of? And that was Najee Harris. Exactly the Ben Roethlisberger criticism of this team. And I actually thought Roethlisberger might have been talking about Najee Harris, and he was talking about some of the wide receivers, Pickens and Deontay Johnson, as the culprits here. But maybe Harris is trying to change things. Like, remember, Perloff, when Ben Roethlisberger was critical that the traditions that the Steelers players had when he was there were not getting passed down to the younger guys. And he blamed the younger guys for not being receptive to, accepting some of those traditions or some of that tough love, if you will.
Right. I think probably true.
Yeah,
so I understand. Listen, I get in a lot of Twitter fights over Deontay Johnson. So talented. It's such a good receiver, such a knucklehead. And even last night, he made a couple plays. I'm like, oh, my God, what is he doing? Then he made a great play. Honestly, and Pickens, too. Pickens' attitude is not great. That's why he was a second-round pick.
But isn't this a reflection on Tomlin?
No, the Steelers draft these. This is a personnel. The reason that you can get Deontay Johnson and George Pickens and Santonio Holmes in later rounds is because other teams know that they have character issues.
Antonio Brown. No,
why
I
do you
get
think you watch George Pickens play? Is there any reason that guy's not a top 10 pick? Yes, because clearly he's got a bit of an attitude problem.
Well, I'm wondering, though, that it used to be almost like a calling card or a feather in their cap that the Steelers could take people who maybe had some issues and get them to buy in. Well, are we not getting the buy-in now? I know the end of the Antonio Brown stuff was messy and Le'Veon Bell. I get that. But I don't think a lot of people were blaming Tomlin. They were just blaming the players, saying these are just malcontents.
I think everyone close said that the Steelers had all these strong, high-character veterans on defense that carried them to 2 Super Bowls. And then they had all these wildly talented guys on offense who were me-first guys, and that's why they couldn't win again. Is that a fair criticism? I mean, they had Antonio Brown.
No, I get it. But
so that I think it's, and by the way, another guy, there's a reason Antonio Brown was available because Antonio Brown had problems going way back. Me first. You don't win that way. I think so. Ben, of all people, was a very me first guy.
Yeah, right.
I think that something happened. Something happened in the Steelers over the years where they all are not on the same page.
Okay, but
so I think Ben was right.
Okay, I do. I think he is too. But I can't just let Tomlin skate there because you're the continuity. That's the cool thing about having a head coach and only having 3 head coaches in your entire history and all of that. The players can pass down the traditions, and that's important, and maybe coaches can't replicate that. But you've got the same guy in the building who's been there through multiple regimes. You are the regime. You set the standard. And listen, I get it. Belichick, it ran its course with Belichick, so it's not forever. But it just feels like shouldn't Tomlin have to wear some of this? Oh, definitely. But that being said, the guy keeps winning 10 games. Do you really want him to leave if you're a Steelers fan? I think some do. But that could easily fall apart if Tomlin leaves. Okay, so juxtapose that, right? So you have Tomlin, who's got this all-time record of never being a below 500 coach in the regular season. But then put that next to haven't won a first-round playoff game in your last 4 tries, haven't won a playoff game in 7 seasons. Great. You can do it in the regular season. You can back into the playoffs. You can all that stuff. But I I think people look at this roster and say, why are we backing into the playoffs? It's because you don't have a quarterback. But
their Hall of Fame quarterback got old, and instead of doing a complete rebuild, they decided to go sort of the middle road. Like the Patriots, would you rather be the Patriots and be 4-13?
I wouldn't, but sometimes that bottom out can lead to your best thing. Like ask the Cincinnati Bengals. Do you think they care that they bottomed out? They end up getting Joe Burrow, and the rest is history.
Yeah, I mean, it's like the process. Do you want the process in Philadelphia where you get terrible? I understand what you're saying, but I do think this is a really intriguing roster. I think.
Me too.
I think Tomlin gets the right quarterback. I think he could be right back there. I understand what you're saying, and I understand Steelers fans hate this limbo where they're just winning 10 games every year. But, man, if you have T.J. Watt on the field and you have a healthy Minkah Fitzpatrick, and you have George Pickens playing like we know he's capable of, there's a lot of reasons to be interested in the Steelers team.
Oh, I get it, but Tomlin also had a hand in picking Pickett, didn't he? Like, the guy's got a lot of power. So you can say, hey, like, look, we killed Bill Belichick because of Mac Jones and Bailey Zappi sucked. I mean, don't we have to give the same thing to Tomlin? You're there. You're in the building. You've got so much power. You missed on the QB. You got to do something about it. Maybe it's Justin Fields. I know there's some Kirk Cousins talk, but Kirk's coming off an Achilles. Like, I
feel like Kirk should say Minnesota.
Well, also, is everybody, yeah, you're right, but in the Dome for half your divisional games, but, like, not everybody is as out there as Aaron Rodgers, like, hey, I'm coming back. I'm going to be greater than ever. I'm going to be this, that. Like, Kirk Cousins.
And we don't even know if Aaron Rodgers is going to be good.
Right. Kirk Cousins is a mid-30s quarterback who's coming off an Achilles. Like, that used to be kind of a death sentence.
But it's Kirk Cousins. It's interesting. What style do you want with Pittsburgh? I feel like Justin Fields, maybe to his detriment, is not going to throw the ball 45 times in a game. He's going to run a lot. So you're going to have Kirk Cousins is going to try and have 5,000 passing yards. It feels like the Steelers, kind of like last year's Eagles, want a running quarterback, and they sort of grind the other team down. I feel like Justin Fields could do that.
Okay, but get ready for your receivers to be unhappy.
And the other thing, too, is
they didn't like it when they had Kenny Pickett, and they loved it when they had Mason Rudolph, who was actually throwing the ball.
And we saw the defense yesterday. I mean, that defense looked like a defense you can rely upon to say,
well, there's no Watt, though.
There's no Watt, but Watt had nothing to do with safeties not tackling and corners not tackling. I mean, that has nothing to do with him. So is that defense going to be able to play that style of play still?
Yeah, this defense gave up about halfway through the year. I'm not quite sure why. I just love Joey Porter Jr. so much so. Oh my gosh, if the Eagles had drafted that guy, I hope he's okay after last night, by the way. That's an interesting injury update to follow, even though the season's over. I mean, you just look, TJ Watt, Cam Hayward, Joey Porter Jr., you got to be, that defense, when it's really fired up, is so good. I don't know. I'd run it back. I feel like I'm the running back.
Though?
I'd run him. No, I'd get a new quarterback, but I'd definitely run it back with Tomlin and tell Mike, hey, listen, I understand you're upset, but if you want to coach this team, it's yours.
Okay, let's hear the Tomlin sound, because after the game, this became one of the big takeaways and talking points from the game after the Steelers lost. He did his press conference. He answered the questions that he had to answer, and then this was the final question.
Anyone? Mike, you have a year left on your contract.
Okay. And he just walked off the podium. I mean, I hate it as a move because listen, if you got something you can dodge this, first of all. You have been doing this for a long time. There's a way to very artfully dodge this. Say, hey, we're not talking about that now. Tomlin has done that plenty of times. But it makes me want to dig if I'm a reporter. It makes me think there is something more to the story.
Yeah.
It makes me think there is something to this Schefter and Jay Glazer reports. And maybe Tomlin, maybe he's upset that it's even come to this, considering, his standing in the organization. Maybe he doesn't feel like he should have ever gotten to the contract year.
Okay, but the Steelers also leaked, hey, if Tomlin, we want you for life. So unless you don't buy that. The other thing, too, if Tomlin really was going to leave, would he walk off on his final press conference? Don't you think he'd be a little more magnanimous if he had left in his mind? Don't you think he would play the game and been like, oh, I love it here, or something? I don't know. You're not going to walk off in anger and then just keep on walking. That's just not how coaches do things.
Well, I don't think, even if he doesn't coach another game for the Steelers ever again, that's not his last press conference. That's just the last one post-game.
Yeah, I just felt like the anger and the fire is still there. He's obviously so upset at losing. I just don't see him walking away. I mean, maybe I'm dead wrong. It just feels like maybe I'm used to it. Mike Tomlin's going to be the coach of the Steelers again next fall, just because I've seen it so many times. They're comfortable with each other, and he did win 10 games with a pretty crappy team this year. And there were a lot of problems. They had Matt Canada at offensive coordinator. That's like when a baseball player has 2 donuts on his bat and he's swinging in the on deck circle. To win that many games with the worst offensive coordinator in the NFL, there's something there with Mike Tomlin.
855-212-4CBS, 855-212-4227. Gary is in Jacksonville. He's got a question for Perloff about his birds. Hey, Gary, how are you?
Yeah, Mr. Perloff, and that complete collapse of your Eagles. Yeah. I was wondering, Sirianni can't possibly come back. Will you look at Jim Harbaugh? Do you look at Ben Johnson? Because you can't bring those guys back after that collapse of the Birds. Completely. And that was embarrassing, that those missed tackles last night. They weren't playing in bad weather or anything like that. That's on Nick Sirianni, that collapse.
Yeah, I mean, they've been missing these tackles in the secondary for the second half of the season. That, to me, is the biggest problem. Are you going to give me Ben Johnson and Jim Harbaugh? I didn't know we could get those guys. Yes and yes. Well, bringing both of them together, and that's even better. That's amazing. Jim, by the way, everyone's saying Belichick. No one's saying Harbaugh. Yes, please.
Do you think that Harbaugh's a candidate? Do you think they'd go to him?
I don't, because I don't think Howie Roseman, the GM, wants to share the power with Jim Harbaugh. He's got a special.
Belichick would be okay,
but he has a special link. Belichick and Howie Roseman are super fans of each other. They always praise each other. There's something weird going on with Belichick. So I think that could be an exception. Harbaugh is difficult, and Howie Roseman had Chip Kelly in, a very similar style, kind of a hardcore guy, and it didn't work at all. So no, I don't think Harbaugh is going to go there. Although I would like that.
I'm sure you would. John is in Western New York. He's got a thought on the Steelers. Good morning, John. How are you?
I'm doing good, guys. First off, I want to say congratulations to the Bills. They played their game, and they did well. But I want to weigh in on a couple of things. Mr. Perloff, they do not have a shitty roster. The
Steelers. John, I get it.
No, I said the roster was good. Yeah. The Steelers roster. I'm interested in the Steelers roster.
I know. I love John, too. I don't want that to prohibit him from calling us another time. We got to keep it clean for the kiddos.
Yeah, no. I'm actually wildly pro Steelers roster. I think Omar Khan's the man.
Yeah.
He's just made good pick after good pick. You always say this. You need a quarterback to tie it all together. And they missed on Pickett.
That matters.
But that was a tough draft. Look at who they were looking at. They needed a quarterback, and they had Kenny Pickett, Malik Willis, Matt Corral. I don't know. I think Kyle Trask. I don't know if he was that year.
No,
there was a bunch of backup quarterbacks.
There was
no other. That was one first round pick was Pickett. That was a huge mistake.
Okay,
it just is not working out.
And I don't think it's an accident that Pickett was in the building. And I think they looked and thought they
just
saw
like Matt
something.
Canada.
Yeah, right. Same with Matt Canada, where he's at Pitt. He's at University of Pittsburgh. He's at Pitt. And they thought, oh, my gosh, look how lucky we are. We got a franchise quarterback. We didn't have to go anywhere. He's right in the building, guys. And turns out, I think they got a little fooled. Maybe saw what they wanted to see.
I mean, Kenny Pickett did have 42 touchdowns, I think, his junior year or something. He was productive at Pitt. And in this preseason, he came out and slung it all over the place.
Yeah, but were you grading him against the other quarterbacks in that class, or were you grading him against all quarterbacks that were an option?
I mean, I'm looking at his senior year. Sorry, he 42 touchdowns, 7 picks. He was unbelievable at Pitt.
No, I get it.
The other thing too is we haven't seen him without Matt Canada, so maybe there's something more there with Pickett. Certainly seems, as you mentioned earlier in the show, the guy can win some close games. I think what they're going to happen, and they mentioned this on the broadcast last night, I think you could easily go into next year with a Rudolph Pickett preseason battle, which is not great. I'd rather go outside.
And you got to think about the division. I know Cleveland had an early exit, but look at what they did with 4 different quarterbacks. Deshaun will be back next year. We'll see what happens there. Burrow, you're not going to keep down, you're not going to get, I'm going to say, lucky that for everyone else, that he gets hurt. That's not going to happen all the time. So you got to fix this quarterback situation.
You're the Pittsburgh Steelers. You can't just lay down with the AFC North. And also, too, those teams always beat each other anyway.
That's true.
The Steelers beat a much, much better Ravens team twice this year. I know the second one was Ty Huntley, but still, I don't think
the first one was the Ravens had 7 drops, I think.
Yeah.
It was crazy.
Steelers are never going to rebuild. I think we know some Steelers fans, and they get frustrated by this. They're never going to rip the Band-Aid and start over.
No, but look at the other quarterbacks in the division. Which one of these isn't like the other? And I know Deshaun Watson hasn't been good, but let's just take his history. One is the highest, has more guaranteed money than any player in the history of the NFL. The other is going to be the 2-time MVP, and the other is maybe people believe the first or second actually best quarterback in the NFL. You got to keep up.
Wait, who's the first or second best quarterback in the NFL?
Joe Burrow.
Oh, right. Well, I was going to say, is that now Lamar Jackson?
It might be Lamar now.
Yeah, it's interesting because we never had Lamar in our top 3 quarterback rankings, and now he's all of a sudden there. Yeah, that's not good. But then again, the AFC North, they kill each other every year. Who knows who survives that meat grinder?
855-212-4CBS, 855-212-4227. The future of Mike Tomlin. Is it time to part ways? I'd say yes. I think,
you think they should part? Which side? Do you think the team should get rid of him, or he should just move on?
I think it's gone as far as it can go.
Mutual.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a good run. Has it been 16 years, something like that?
Who's in it? So, oh man, they have some weird assistant on the sideline next year. I think they go down a 6-win team.
I trust the Pittsburgh Steelers to pick a coach more than any team. More than any professional sports franchise that exists in North America. Like, if Tomlin, if you do part ways with him, who else would you trust more to hire the next head coach than the Pittsburgh Steelers? They are incredible at this.
I would counter argue they've only done it twice. I might trust them less. They have less experience picking coach, and they did pick Matt Canada.
Well, that was, I think, a Tomlin pick.
Yeah.
Like, as far as picking head coaches, why wouldn't you trust? Haven't the Steelers brass earned the benefit of the doubt?
Nobody who picked Mike Tomlin was in the bill. That was 2005. There's no one there who picked Mike Tomlin.
There's Rooney family people there.
I think the Rooney who picked him is no longer there.
Well, Dan Rooney has passed away, right? Yeah. Art Rooney is still there. I think I'm getting my Rooneys right.
Anyway, yeah, you could argue this is
your Roonies.
The one team that does not know how to pick head coaches because they never do it. They have no experience with this.
The Jets pick a new head coach every 3 years. Do they seem good at it? Sorry, EJ and Pete. 855-212-4CBS. 855-212-4227. All right, you mentioned Jim Harbaugh. We'll tell you where he was interviewing yesterday, and is that the right fit for Coach Jim Harbaugh? Get to that next. Maggie and Perloff, CBS Sports Radio.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. 2 minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. $45 seconds remaining. $30 seconds remaining. $15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Welcome back to Maggie and Perloff. Can't get to me today. Anybody wants to call in and make fun of my Eagles? Doesn't affect me at all, Mag.
Yeah, you've been making fun of them for weeks.
We
Yeah.
all know they're losers.
Oh, get out of here. Who's your team?
Jets, they're losers too.
No,
It
no, no.
takes
There's
one to
no
know one.
losers, too. They're not in the same conversation at all. Although I do love former
all
Eagles
lost.
executive. Wait. There's one thing to lose in the first round of the playoffs. There's another to win 6 games. They're not the same category of losers.
I'm not. All right, fine. You put them in different loser categories. They're both losers.
You're saying all 31 teams at the end of the year are the same as the Jets?
Yes. That's what you go for. You go to win the ring. You don't go to win. Hey, I won a division championship. Great.
Oh.
Wonderful. All right. Well, you go to win the Super Bowl.
Yeah, that's definitely right. So if the 49ers play the Ravens in this Super Bowl, then you're right. The Ravens or the 49ers and Jets are same. Come on. That is
They're all
completely
losers.
insane.
They're all losers.
No,
That's like if you don't
this.
win the marathon, if you you finish a marathon under 4 hours, well, you didn't win the thing, so no accomplishment there. What are you talking about?
I'm telling you.
Well, they
They're
always
all
say second
losers.
place is the first loser. But I think that there's loser tiers.
Obviously.
Yeah.
I mean, the
That's
Eagles are pretty
fine.
high. I'm sorry. Like, we're not doing this mental gymnastics, Perloff. There was a epic collapse of the Eagles season after being 10-1.
Yeah.
They won one game the rest of the way.
Yeah.
And then got eliminated by a team that had 9 wins.
They
They are one of the worst losers of the season.
And they're about to fire their coach.
Right.
The quarterback might be giving anonymous quotes to ESPN about how he doesn't like the offense. Like if you're not a loser franchise, you're cosplaying a loser franchise.
They've been in
right
the playoffs 3 years in a row, and they just won 11 games. To say they're the same as the Jets is insane.
No, I've suffered through too many Mets collapses in September where I had to tell people the Mets had a good season or they were in the playoffs the year before to be told, no, you're still losers because you collapsed. I'm not going to sit here and hear, oh, well, sorry, we went to the playoffs 3 years before, so this one isn't so bad. I'm not doing it.
Guys, I'm surprised. EJ, Maggie, I did not peg you guys as science deniers. We did this yesterday. It's called dry heat.
I know.
You're in Arizona in February. Maybe the roof is closed, climate control. Maybe the dry heat stays outside, but maybe it creeps in and then it just lingers in your system for weeks and months. Fool's gold, 10-1 start, and then you get to November and you can't win again. We've seen it a million times before. This is what the Eagles are the latest victim of dry heat.
Make fun of the Eagles all you want, but I think you're
that's
totally
not
underestimating the how big the L is on the New York Jets.
Big L on both of them.
No one's doing that.
On both of them. Pilates saying the Jets and the Eagles are the same thing.
You lost 6 out of 7 games to end the season.
Oh, my God.
No-showed in Tampa Bay on national TV.
You lost to Todd Bowles, who used to be a Jets loser.
As the coach,
Todd Bowles did just beat you.
As the coach goes up the tunnel and basically tells the Chiefs to kiss his rings.
Oh, my gosh. You guys are way too high on the Jets. Like,
but Sirianni,
miraculously too high on the Jets.
But Sirianni also went through like a total kind of crisis of confidence. He knew he had to change his behavior on the sideline. Like, they were all discombobulated. I mean, call it delayed hangover, call it whatever you want, but it hit the Eagles hard.
Yeah.
And now there's going to be major changes, right?
Yeah, but they won 11 games this year.
You realize just lost to one of the worst Jet coaches in recent memory, right? You keep talking about how bad the Jets are losers. They just eliminated you in the playoffs.
No, you guys
You
are
saved Todd Bowles' job.
You guys are totally right. Basically, the Carolina Panthers and the Philadelphia Eagles had the same exact season. And the Jets are great. You know what? The Jets, at least they played in January. What are you talking about? We spent all summer celebrating this Jets team that then we said, oh, yeah, I forgot they're the Jets, the biggest losers, except for the Giants, the biggest losers in the NFL.
The Jets lost their quarterback. What was the Eagles' excuse?
Oh,
Did the Jets not lose their quarterback?
Lost their minds.
Temperature. Their excuses.
Wait, EJ, I forget. Are you a Jets fan?
Not a dry heat. He said it's more like a dry heat.
Oh, man.
Ice.
You guys are, this is so sad that you're actually claiming equal status between the Eagles and the Jets right now.
They're losers. They're both losers. That's what I'm saying.
Exactly.
They're both losers.
No.
None of them are going to win the Super Bowl this year. Thus, losers.
So, okay, I'm going to cut that clip because if the Ravens or the Niners lose in the Super Bowl, if you're saying the Jets and the Niners and the Ravens are two of those teams are the same and one is not, then you're not even a sports fan. You're just an insane person.
That's even worse. The Ravens should be going have a big ticket to the Super Bowl this year and win.
I'll tell you what, if the Ravens lose in the playoffs, it's going to be a massive L for Lamar Jackson. His legacy and how we talk about him, everything is riding on this playoff run. You can't say, oh, well, if they lose, well, it's okay. No. It's going to be a huge deal if they lose. What do you mean?
Agree.
You guys are delusional about the Jets. You're totally delusional. Do not think that is the biggest loser franchise.
I just said they're losers.
The Jets beat the Eagles, too,
All
didn't they?
losers are not the same.
With Zach Wilson.
Yeah.
To be fair, Perloff, you were the one who brought up the Jets. Bellotti said you're a loser, and you said, what team do you root for?
Yeah, I know. That's exactly like, how could you call me a loser? That's like saying, like, just because a JV player in high school is talking trash to the varsity star, because what are you talking about?
I'm not running around throwing a parade for the Jets. I just said that they are terrible, too.
Yeah.
We've watched loser football. We can.
This is what's going on.
Yeah.
This is what's going on. Perloff doesn't want to be associated with your type of losing.
That's right.
That's what it is. He wants to be a loser in his own
beneath him,
in his own lane.
Am I crazy? Are we talking about the New York Jets? Are we talking about the Winnipeg Jets? What are you guys talking? I feel like I'm on Planet Bizarro right here.
What part of we think the
Jets
are losers do you not understand?
Do you know that everybody outside of the zip code thinks the New York Jets are the biggest losing franchise? Are you aware of what's going on out there?
I am. That's
he
why
feels the same way.
And you think they're the same as the
what's going on?
You think the Jets and the Eagles are the
protest in the street? You're just like,
but
Jets suck protest.
He thinks the Jets and the Eagles are the same.
Did you just watch what the Eagles did here? The Eagles were 10-1. They were 10-1.
Yeah.
They should have made the championship game.
Week 10-1. You just said that they had to go through a gauntlet of playing in February.
To be fair, Jets never quit. Felt like the Eagles quit. Jets beat the Patriots week 18, sent Belichick out as a loser.
Jets never said they were tired either.
Whoa, you guys
They
are
quit
out of step
the
with
Eagles
NFL
quit on
Nation
their
right
coach. They quit on their coach. It's evident right there. They quit on their coach, and they're all yelling at the quarterback on the sideline.
I understand this is all bad, but you're comparing them to the New York Football Jets.
You are comparing them to the Jets. You are.
Wait, Pete just said they're the same, right? Did I hear that?
Everybody who doesn't win a Super Bowl, yes, you lost. You didn't get it done.
Right.
No.
You'll get a trophy for that.
No. The Jets are in a totally different category.
Bogus is here with headlines. There's got to be something going on today.
It's the Eagles, actually. Jason Kelsey apparently more tired than the rest of them. The 36-year-old center reportedly told teammates after last night's 32-9 loss in Tampa Bay that he is retiring.
See ya.
The question is Is this the first of multiple exits from Philly after this late season collapse? Head coach for now, Nick Sirianni, maybe on the hot seat.
There's a lot of guys in that locker room, all the guys in that locker room, every single one of them that put their heart and soul into this. I'm not worried about me.
The Bucs now worry about the Lions.
You might want to worry about yourself.
Let's start now.
Is that losing tier 1 or 2?
Their divisional game in Detroit.
You guys are all total morons, by the
Sunday
way.
afternoon.
Thank you.
Honestly, like Jets fans are nauseating enough. I have to work with them. I should get some sort of
Aggravated.
what's it called?
Workman's
Disability pay. Yeah.
I'm going to be honest, like Eagles fans aren't really a treat, but back to Bogish.
Yes.
And I think it's worth pointing out that you've spent 2.5 hours saying you can't be bothered by the Eagle loss, and you've been bothered for 2.5 hours.
I'm
by
bothered
us
by
and
the
Eagle loss.
No, it has nothing to do with the Eagles.
Oh,
This is now about the Jets. To think that the Jets are good.
Okay,
you made it about the Jets.
This is the chat is weighing in. YouTube.com/CBS Sports Radio, Twitch.tv/CBS Sports Radio. Ken M says an L's an L. Pine Needle says they are the same. Each one of you have one Super Bowl.
That's right.
There you go.
That's right.
There you go.
Very, very.
He said, yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Very logical listeners.
He said, if my Niners lose in the Super Bowl, then they are losers. It's not that complicated.
Okay. Wait. We're talking about just make it clear. New York Jets, not the Winnipeg Jets, not the Jets from West Side Story.
Not
this
the
is the
Jetsons.
New York Football Jets. Am I a planet Zootron here? Everyone knows this is the biggest loser franchise in the history of pro sports.
You do not get to talk about other losers when your team that's coming off of a Super Bowl appearance.
Yes, but the Jets,
just
of course I can talk
6 out
about
of
them.
7 games and then lost to Todd Bowles, former Jets coach in the playoffs. You don't get to say that today. I'm sorry. You don't get to say that.
Wait, what's
you don't get to say that too. You have Zach Wilson as your quarterback.
But
I
I'm
don't understand
acknowledging
what's
that the
going
Jets
on here.
suck. You're not acknowledging that the Eagles suck right now.
Who is the worst franchise over the last decade?
Well, nobody holds a candle to the Jets.
Of course. Nobody's debating that.
Wait, what's Planet Zootron?
Whatever. I think
next to
Daryl
parts
Dawkins
unknown.
lived there.
Tony Romo, where he's from.
It's where Romo's camping out Monday through Sunday.
Also a loser this morning, the Steelers, 31-17 in Buffalo yesterday. That one started 21-0. The Bills pull away late, and now they see the Chiefs for a third time in the postseason. The first 2 losses at Arrowhead, but this one Sunday night will be in Buffalo. Back to those Eagles just for a second, because they are not alone with issues in the NFC East. Maybe there's a coaching change coming in Dallas. The Commanders undergoing a complete facelift. And then there are the Giants. They divorced D coordinator Wink Martindale last week because of issues between him and head coach Brian Daboll. Now we have reports about how bad Daboll might be. Irrational, yelling, takes no accountability. He took play calling away from offensive coordinator Mike Kafka multiple times during the season. And apparently, on the urging of Martindale, GM Joe Shane spent 4 games on the headsets monitoring how Daboll spoke to his staff during games. So there is no safe space right now in the NFC East.
Yeah. I'm just going to say, as a longtime Buffalo Bill fan, there were a lot of things in this report that were not a surprise, that were not a shock.
Although
the headsets, the 13 seconds game, what was going on the headsets is a big question that came out of Buffalo, and drips and drabs have come out since.
So we've got sources who have sources that point out that this is probably Wink Martindale telling all of these stories, which calls into question some of the validity of the claims.
Listen, now Pat Leonard from the Daily News said no, it wasn't that. I think that you're looking also, there's another aggrieved party here. Now, I hate source guessing because you have the right to say your piece, but the defensive coordinator was not the only phase of this football team that was dismissed who would have also been on the headset.
Right.
It's a special team.
There's a special teams guy.
Special schmemes.
And Mike Kafka apparently doesn't necessarily like Brian Daboll either, so he could also, and he still has a job at the moment.
He's interviewing for other jobs too, by the way.
Here's the thing about source guessing. I think it's tough because everyone's got different agendas. This one seems obvious, like, Wink Martindale, he feels like he got the shaft. His guys got fired. He left. And, of course, he would just go run to the Daily News. I don't know about that. There are a lot of people on the headsets, including analytics guys, clock management guys. Like, there's a lot more cooks in the kitchen, I think, than most people realize.
And when we watch Daboll on the sideline and in press conferences, it fits. A lot of the story fits.
Oh, he goes nuts on the sidelines.
Yeah.
I think at times it does look unprofessional. But here's the thing: it's kind of like if you're winning, people say, "Oh, what a fiery." Getting after his guys. Like, he's yelling at Daniel Jones last year. Everyone was hailing him as a hero. They were about to do a parade for him in the Canyon of Heroes. But when you're losing, you look like you're unhinged.
Well, on the positive side, they're at the same place as either the Niners or the Ravens. They're that close to a Super Bowl by Pete's logic.
I did not say that. I said they're losers. That's it.
You guys are just way too overestimating both these teams.
For now,
the
the
second you say
Giants,
Giants, I'm like,
place.
that is a loser franchise too right now.
Wait, hold on 1 second. Just back to the Giants for a second. You've got some major issues here.
But they're organizational. That's my point. Like, there's something wrong deep inside that organization right now.
Okay, maybe. But you definitely need a defensive coordinator. You're going to likely need an offensive coordinator. I know Kafka's interviewing places, but if it's bad between him and Daboll, then he's going to be out. Your quarterback situation is extremely far from set. You got a Saquon Barkley situation you got to try to figure out. I mean, you got issues.
And the owner's good friends with Bill Belichick.
Well, Belichick always had a love for the Giants.
I think that's like his first love since he was the DC there.
Of course, but would you really push aside Daboll and bring Belichick home, quote unquote?
If they were going to, they would have did it already, and they would have sat up there right after the season, the GM and the coach talking together. So I think.
You think it's on the table or no?
Not as much as people think.
Well, don't forget,
Keep an eye out.
I mean, the Belichick thing is still kind of new as well. Like, their season ended, and then they had to wait for that decision out of there. So
Belichick wants a record, though, and I think Giants is too scary that he wouldn't get it, right?
Except the interview with the Falcons yesterday. And
they're in the NFC South. At least you have that advantage.
They got more talent than the Giants, for sure.
I mean,
everybody does, probably, but...
Well,
not everybody.
Yeah. Offensive. I mean, the Giants...
Honestly, I'm sorry, like... The Giants are like the Jets. Like there's nothing they can do right now. They're just stuck in such a rut.
Well, but at least they made the playoffs 2 years. Not
last year.
Last year,
they made the playoff twice in 15 years now. There's something really wrong.
They've been bad for a long time. They kind of skate a little bit more than the Jets because, well, no, it does get pretty embarrassing.
Well, you know Joe Shane. Is he the guy to turn it around? I mean, not that I'm saying you know him personally, but he was a Buffalo guy.
He's a good drafter. He's good at. I think.
Evan Neal not looking that great, though.
Well, not that guy. Listen, no one can help the Giants.
Who did the Giants get last year? I can't even remember.
Deontay Banks this year was the last pick. He had a very good year.
And Kayvon Thibodeau.
And Thibodeau
years.
Yeah, he was the Evan Neal combo in the top 10.
You hit on one.
Yeah, 1 for 2, not bad.
I like to see them be able to draft their own quarterback and see what happens.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to be high enough, though. Well, actually, that's not true. What are they picking, 6?
Yeah, they could trade up.
Giants are picking 6, right where they got Daniel Jones, 2018.
Draymond Green was back last night. The Warriors still lost 116-107 in Memphis to a Grizzly team missing Ja Morant, Marcus Smart, and Desmond Bane. Steve Kerr's team maybe just not good.
19 turnovers that turn into 30 points. And, their game plan was pretty simple. Shoot as many threes as possible and get into transition as often as possible.
Draymond heard boos when he entered the game. He played 24 minutes, had 7.7 boards and 4 assists in his return from his suspension. And Dusty Baker reportedly returning to the Giants as a front office advisor. He had a similar role with the club before becoming the Astros manager. And, of course, he managed the Giants for a decade. Guys, back to you.
Bogish, thank you so much. Coming up, we will talk about Jim Harbaugh. We also have more reaction from yesterday's wild card games. Do not move. Maggie, Perloff, you, CBS Sports Radio.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. 4 minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. $45 seconds remaining. $30 seconds remaining. $15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Welcome back. Maggie Gray, Andrew Perloff. Okay, this is the second time I've brought this up today where I feel like if we had some kind of conduct detrimental to the show, Perloff would be in easy violation of all the bylaws of this show. First was when he casually mentioned to me in a break, as I am a lifelong Bills fan, Josh Allen's going to get hurt at some time. That should have been violation number 1 of the bylaws, the Maggie and Perloff show. Second violation, where I think Perloff could be held in contempt of show, like contempt of court, is because you just sent out a tweet that is incredibly misleading.
How so?
You said there's a big fight on the show,
Yes.
and then you tagged all of us in it.
Yes.
That we said the Eagles and the Jets are in the same places as franchises. Do you agree? That is not the question.
Pete, is that your statement?
That's not the statement.
That's exactly.
This is what it is. The question was, do they both count as losers? Your team just lost in the playoffs last night, embarrassing fashion, on the road, no-show to playoff game. Jets lost like they always lose. They have bad record, regular season, didn't make the playoffs. They have the longest drought in the NFL. Like, do you both count as losers today?
Well,
and you said no.
Losers today. No. But that would mean all 31 teams that don't win the Super Bowl are losers.
That's what Pete's saying.
But
That's what EJ's saying.
But in a set, yes, but that is a misleading statement, in my opinion. That's a crazy statement.
You should have to delete this tweet.
They're not the same. I'm not deleting it. They're not the same thing.
I'm telling you.
You're saying they're losers, so they're in the same place as a franchise. They're losers.
Listen.
I didn't say that.
You said they're both losers.
I said they're both losers.
They are both losers.
Technically, of course, they're both losers. Nobody's going to argue that. But to say...
You are arguing it.
You want tears of losing.
Of course there's tears of losing. To say the Eagles and the Jets are in the same boat in any sense doesn't make any sense.
Okay, but listen, the Jets have the longest playoff drought in the NFL. That's obviously not the same as the Eagles, who were at the Super Bowl last year. But we're talking about a team that did not show up, embarrassing performance, likely to fire the head coach, quarterback sniping. Like, you right now, it might not be all time, but right now you are exhibiting the qualities of a loser franchise.
Like the Jets. Same.
Listen.
Makes it sound like that tweet was somewhat accurate.
I feel like you got to live in the loser spotlight for a day. Like, I'm not, look, as Jets fans, we live in the loser spotlight.
It's a totally different kind of loser. This was a disappointed. This is a contender who blew it loser,
right,
which is so
very
different than a perennial loser.
Hold on. Somebody wants to back up Perloff. 855-212-4CBS. Bill's in California is here to agree with Perloff. What do you have, Bill?
Hey, hear me out on this one, Perloff. I'm here to try to back you up.
Thank you, Bill.
Let you know about the Eagles. It wasn't the Eagles' fault. It was the NFL's fault, and let me tell you why. They were 10-1. My Niners came into Philadelphia, wacko-doodled the Eagles and knocked them out. The NFL never required the Eagles to go into concussion protocol. Therefore, they play the rest of the season in concussion, and that's what happened. They got knocked out by Mr. Irrelevant, and they realized, hey, we made the Super Bowl last year because they didn't have Mr. Irrelevant. So,
Bill, I'm going to count
saying.
this as a fake lifeline.
Yeah.
But you made your point, and good luck to you.
By the way, Bill, you're
Bill
getting
calling to gloat about the Eagles losing, saying he was here to have Perloff's back is a great call.
I would go even further. The season actually ended in the win over the Cowboys when CeeDee Lamb went for 200 yards or something. I'm like, oh my God, we cannot cover any single person on this field. Yeah. So, I don't think that tweet is inaccurate because in Pete's mind, you're both losers. To me, that says you're in the same place. There's got to be tiers of losers. Of course there is. The Super Bowl loser and the team that has a number one overall pick are not the same thing. Yeah. They're not both losers in the same way. You can't say the Carolina Panthers and the Baltimore Ravens or the San Francisco 49ers or your Bills are the same thing.
Okay, I think the other poll question we should put out today
Let's hear it.
Should Perloff have to sit in the loser, what'd you call it, EJ? The loser spotlight?
Loser spotlight.
Should you have to sit in the loser spotlight
you can't divert the loser spotlight and say, no, let's point to the Jets who haven't played in a week or who no one cared about for a month because Aaron Rodgers has been out. And we knew he wasn't coming back. You got to sit in it. You got to say, you know what? We sucked. We're the laughingstock in the NFL. Yesterday was the Cowboys. Look, Cowboys fans called into the show. Big Dave called in the show. You know what? It was terrible. It sucked. We need to fire everybody. But you know what? It is what it is. Perloff, today, you're just like, oh, come on. We're not the Jets. We're not the At least we didn't lose to the Cowboys. I mean, come on.
The Eagles have real work to do here. We cannot get distracted with this crap. I'm not going to sit here. We just lost Jason Kelce. There is actual personnel decisions that need to be made and Howie needs me to be on the job here, not to wallow.
Coming up, who has the best shot of pulling off an upset in the upcoming divisional round? Got that and more on the Steelers for you next.
You're in a 5-minute break. 4 minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
He's destined to get knocked out by Jake Paul. She's destined to film it. They are Maggie and Perloff on CBS Sports Radio.
Here's the snap. Blitz coming. Allen steps up in the pocket, going to take off and run. Has the first down and more. To the 40, to the 35, 30. Breaks away. 20, 10, 5. Touchdown, Josh Allen.
That's what it sounded like on Bill's radio. Josh Allen breaking off a 52-yard touchdown run. That made it 21-7. It was more of a game than the final score would indicate, but Buffalo moves on. The Steelers go home. And now major questions about Mike Tomlin's future, Perloff.
I would have liked to see what would happen if TJ Watt was in that game. I don't know what difference he would have made. I just feel like the whole defense would have been a little more enthused.
Yep.
You've nailed it all year long. The Bills can make any blowout into a game right now.
Yes,
I don't quite know how they did it. It was 24-17, and the momentum felt like it was. Or was it 24-17? Yeah. It felt like it was really shifted to the Steelers. 8 minutes into that game, there was a controversial call on the sideline. One of the Steelers players was a Freiermuth, fumbled the ball on the sideline, and I never saw an accurate angle on whether the Bills recovered it inbounds.
Well, they said it glanced off of Freiermuth's helmet while he was also out of bounds.
But nobody actually has any visual footage of that.
This is just, you got to believe them when the referees say it. I thought that was going to be the second bad fumble. They had a fumble also in the first half that led to a Bills touchdown. Yeah.
I was thrilled. I'm like, oh, thank God that this game is not going to be a complete blowout, so there's something to watch. From Monday afternoon football was an unexpected delight, and that game seemed like it was going to be over in 5 minutes. If they had lost that fumble in there, I mean, that wouldn't have even been a game. But I'm psyched for the Steelers that they had enough chutzpah to actually keep it entertaining.
Well, the problem for the Steelers is, listen, they were 10-point underdogs in that game. It was going to take a lot of things to break right for them. And listen, the Bills' secondary kept getting decimated. Their linebacker core decimated. The guy who led the Bills in tackles yesterday in the game was literally on his couch a week ago. He had been cut from practice squad, was about to take his kids on a vacation to the Florida Keys, and got the call from the Bills, hey, we need you. And he led the team in tackles yesterday. That was A.J. Klein. They were down to third string and fourth string dudes. And so I think that's part of the reason why Pittsburgh was able to make it more interesting. It sets up a big question, though. Let's take it for the Bills angle for a second. I mean, if your defense is not, there's no way the Bills will be a close full strength. But Patrick Mahomes is going to make this look a lot worse than Mason Rudolph was able to.
Well, I'm not sure the Chiefs are going to throw the ball. I don't know what the weather is. I think this is the way you're describing, like this is a Pacheco issue.
It might be.
The Chiefs are going to try and run the ball, keep the ball out of Josh Allen's hands.
And then we have plenty of time to talk about this game and this matchup and Josh Allen versus Mahomes, and this is going to be a lot of fun. And I do think the Bills can win this game. I do think getting them at home, the Chiefs' offense does not look as scary as it has.
Well, what you just described with the Bills' injuries, though, makes it sound like, ooh, this is going to be an opportunity for the Chiefs to push on them a little bit. When injuries happen, I think you might see it more in the run game, which is scary. And it's funny, the Bills and the Chiefs, they're by the way, they're the same team. I'm sorry, like just how Bilotti was saying the Jets and the Eagles are the same team last hour. We won't get into that anymore.
We'll flesh that out. No, we are going to have to get into it because now more people are weighing in.
But the Chiefs and the Bills are also the same team in the sense that they're 3 years ago. Was it 3 years ago, the 13-second game? They could not be stopped offensively, and they've redefined themselves in a really interesting way that they can now sit on a lead and run the ball. I think it's good.
Well, this is a new revelation for the Bills that they're able to run the ball and salt away some clock and go on sustained drives. The problem and the real difference between the Bills and the Chiefs is that Patrick Mahomes doesn't turn the ball over and Josh Allen turns the ball over a lot. Now, he did not do it last night. To his credit, they were able to go on these long drives, but because I think the commitment to the run, they weren't able to. He didn't turn the ball over. That's it. Like that's the difference to me.
Well, I can't even name the running backs who were in that 13-second game for the Bills. Was it Devin Singletary and Clyde Edwards-Helaire? Yeah, they weren't even really factors, though. At that point, it was just nobody can stop anybody. I don't see that happening at all. And also, the weather is just... Last night, the fact that I had such a low bar for Mason Rudolph, you thought they should have pulled him. I'm amazed Mason Rudolph is completing any passes. It's freezing out there. Nobody really wants to be there. I thought he played pretty well.
Well, the fans were into it. It was 1 degree. It felt like 1 degree in the second half. It was like 4 degrees at kickoff. Felt like 4. I mean, I thought weather really did not impact this game. I mean, you had kickers who were trying 40-plus yard field goals. You had, you did have passing in this game.
Not as much as you might have had.
Yeah, but the commitment to the run, I think, was more schematic than it was because of the elements. And I'm curious because you had all the visuals of the fans digging out the seats. I mean, did you notice that the fans only dug out the home seats? Like anyone, like all Steeler fans who were going to the game,
I did not notice that.
Through the.
Apparently, no assigned seating either. You could just walk in, sit wherever.
Like, I'm sorry, I think you're in my seat. It's like there's 10 feet of snow on top of it. This is 147 DD. I think you're in 146 DD.
Ironically, the weather kind of affecting the passing game. Josh Allen only had 203 yards. Plays into a strength of the Bills. Like, they couldn't open it up, and they couldn't have Josh Allen throwing the ball all over the field and maybe throwing picks. I think it ironically helped them a little bit. It made them be conservative.
NFL's got a problem when you talk about weather affecting games.
Well,
can't throw snowballs at guys trying to catch touchdowns.
That was ridiculous. And the fact that the announcers thought it was a flag because it came so close to the ball, that was utterly. Eagles fans are much
George
classier.
Pickens?
Yes.
Yeah, when he was sort of interfered with and they didn't call it in the end zone. Right. But Eagles fans are much classier. You throw it at the player when they're coming out of the tunnle. First of all, you get more impact.
Yeah.
You don't do it in the middle of a play.
right.
How tacky is that?
Well, listen, I think if for the next game, if there's that kind of snow in the stands, they're probably going to make an announcement. If any snowball comes out, then it's going to be a 15-yard penalty on the Bills.
To me, like that, they should do a flag on that play. I know maybe the pass was semi-uncatchable. There was one flag, but they threw a flag for a semi-uncatchable pass. But you can't throw a snowball in the middle of the play while the games are happening. Celebration after touchdown, sack, whatever. I think that's who cares. Yeah. But that was a little ridiculous.
Also, they went after George Pickens and Deontay Johnson on the bench, and Pickens turned around. There was almost a Jalen Ramsey incident there too. That was I was joking about throwing it at the log. Like, honestly, I think with Taylor Swift in the building next week, the NFL is gonna let the Bills know in no uncertain terms that's not happening on national TV.
Because Taylor's there?
It's going to be a huge audience. I think the NFL was probably embarrassed by that play. That was not good.
Make it sound like it was happening every time. It happened once.
No, but I mean that was
happening. There was a huge problem with Pickens and the guys. Like, they were pelting the Steelers bench. You could see it on all sorts of videos.
And it was a key play. I mean, it's a 2-score game, and they're trying to come back. You can't do that.
No, I get it, and I understand Pickens saying we were battling the Bills and the referees. I didn't think. Listen, maybe I'm Bills colored glasses on today. I didn't think it rose to the level of that. We've all seen, and I would agree with Pickens. He definitely got held in the fourth quarter when he was trying to make a crucial third down catch. He should have gotten the call there. I don't think that changed the outcome of the game. It was 31-17 at that time, right? I don't think that the Steelers were coming back and winning off of that bad call.
I do think it's interesting with the Bills and the Chiefs playing next week. Mm-hmm. Who are the officials, the two teams that the officials in the AFC help more than anybody? It's going to be a tough one. Yeah. I mean, they love the Chiefs like they love their own kids.
No,
so it's going to be, but they also kind of like the Bills. It's going to be an official off.
Well, this is the thing. I'm not saying, listen, you like to think it kind of evens out by the end. Like, both teams get bad calls and both teams get good calls.
But being in Buffalo should help the Bills.
Well, that's part. I mean, I think part of the home field advantage is not necessarily you think you're going to get every call going your way because, again, like they'll call it against you. But I think let's see what Mahomes can do on the road in the playoffs. Like, let's see how Andy Reid reacts when it's crunch time. Andy Reid. Now you're on the road. I think we give Arrowhead a lot of credit. We should probably give it even more than we do because that's such a great home field advantage that they've enjoyed. And I know the Bengals went in and beat them, and I get that, but they've had a ton of success, and I think the home field is a big part of it.
I think you get a subtle advantage with the officials. I mean, that's exactly why the Bills are favored here. I think if it's the exact opposite spread in KC. KC by 2.5 in KC. Yeah. Bills by 2.5. These teams are mirror images of each other. What is it? Vegas gives you 3 points for home field advantage. I agree. I am so excited for this game. I don't have to stress out about anything anymore. The Eagles are out. Both my Super Bowl picks are done. I can just sit back and relax and watch the second round. This is to me, this is by far the playoff game of the. I think until the Ravens and the Niners get challenged, oh man, this is going to be great.
Listen, it's incredible that it's turned into this kind of rivalry. But here's the thing. The Bills got to win one of these in the postseason for it to really turn into a rivalry because they've beaten them in the regular season. They've beaten the Chiefs in the regular season in Arrowhead. They did it earlier this year, the Kadarius Toney foot in the neutral zone game that we all remember so well. But if the Bills really want to make this the true rivalry, they've got to win this game.
Yeah, I would highly suggest don't let any more defensive guys get hurt because if you have to go, if Baltimore wins and you have to go to Baltimore shorthanded against that team,
5 defensive starters who started the game against the Dolphins in Week 18 were injured in this game yesterday afternoon.
Luckily, not half of those guys are backups. But Rasul Douglas is the key one. Oh my God, you need him back.
He could play. They're saying he's trending towards playing. We'll see.
Good.
EJ, you look like you want to say something there.
We got some poll results on a lot of things we've discussed today that I think we should get to.
Put a pause in that. Let me hit the phones for a second. 855-212-4CBS. John is in South Carolina. Wants to weigh in on what became a pretty heated show debate.
Yep.
Do you consider the Eagles losers today? Is kind of the gist of it. John, what do you have?
Well, I'm going to throw out the, wisdom of the ages here. It's pretty simple. Every team not in the playoffs so far this year are losers. But really, the course thing is what we're talking about, the degree of losing. And there's definitely degrees because even after every football game, we all start talking about the degree they lost the game. Was it a blowout? Was it a tight game? So the degree thing is it. But, yeah, they're all, and my Panthers, my Browns, we're all losers except for the playoff teams.
Wait, John, are you really a Panthers and a Browns fan?
Well, I was born in Ohio, and then I was in Carolina when the Panthers were born, so I'm kind of, you know what I mean? It's like the Browns are my home team, but I was here when the Panthers were born, so they're kind of my team, too.
Okay.
Hey, who's the luckiest guy in the NFL this year? C.J. Stroud not getting picked by the worst owner of the year. Pepper.
Boy, and you know what? I think people were just saying that about the Texans not that long ago, that they were a bad organization, that you wouldn't want to go to the Texans, and now a couple picks later, including Stroud. Here you go. John, thank you for weighing in on that.
I think he said it well. There are degrees of loser. Obviously, if you get blown out, it's a lot different than losing a close game. And to me, yes, technically, I know the Eagles did not win the game last night. I understand that technically they're losers. But I think the gist of the argument is, I understand what you guys are saying. They were 10-1. This is just such a giant collapse. It makes them loser, like in the same way a Jets or a Panthers are losers. It's so different to me.
Are you a lowercase L loser, or are you like a capital L loser?
Giant L. But I feel like, I'm sorry, what's the loser? The Jets are right now, and I love Joe Douglas, is awesome, but they are the loser franchise in the NFL. That's just facts.
Well, they have the longest playoff drought of any team in the NFL right now. So, yes, you could say they're losers there. But you heard what John said. He said, but every team.
He said, except the playoff teams.
Except for the playoff teams that haven't lost yet. And if he called back in 3 weeks, he would say every team that is lost is a loser.
No, but he said except the playoff teams. So they're different.
No, I think he meant the playoff teams that are still alive.
No, I think he was saying that call said that the Eagles are different than the Jets, right? He was back at it.
Right, because he said there's tiers, but.
To say that if the Texans lose next week to the Ravens, I don't think anyone is going to say they're losers. This is not the way you're going to describe them. Be like, oh, man. Really, though?
They are.
I mean, Pete, you're not going to call them a loser. You understand this is a very bright, shining light of the NFL. And even if they lose this game, everyone is stoked in Houston.
That's fine. They can rebound. I'm not saying that they're not capable of not rebounding. I'm just saying they're losers. For the 2023 season, they did not win the Super Bowl. Thus, they are losers.
Yeah, they're not losers forever. They're just
no, I understand the English word loser, but that's just stupid to say the Texans are. No one is going to say the Texans are losers if they lose this game.
But let's be real. The Eagles are much closer to the Jets as losers this year than the Texans would be.
No.
How?
Technically, they are.
Because the Eagles
are
not. The Eagles are not in the same universe as the Jets right now.
No, because the Jets and Eagles both suffered massive disappointments in losing. There's no disappointment in the Texans losing in the second round.
You can't compare these two teams. That's why.
Why?
That's why. Because the Jets have never been close.
Did the Jets have Super Bowl expectations this year?
They shouldn't have.
But they did.
Well, after
and you were the one saying they could. You want Aaron Rodgers going to the Jets.
I understand, and you're trying to logically. No, the Eagles and the Jets are not the same this year. They're not even close.
But they both had Super Bowl expectations, and they both fell short in spectacular fashion.
I think what we've realized here is that a couple things. One, a new term was born from EJ called the loser spotlight. And we want Perloff to sit in it today. Because his Eagles lost and it was embarrassing. It's not even like heartbreaking, like we feel bad for you. It was like, it was embarrassing and we all got a boring game to watch because of it and all of that. So do we actually have an actual, and you won't admit it because you gave up on the Eagles weeks ago. Do we have an actual hat that someone's going to have to wear on the day when they have to sit in the loser spot?
A giant L.
Yeah.
I think
Did we get a winner's hat too?
Here's my big disagreement. I think the three of you overestimate the Jets as a body of work.
You're the one that brought up the
I
Jets.
think like the L is so big. The L is so big it should cover the entire stadium. At least the Eagles have incredible hope.
You're right, but you're the one that brought up the Jets. I'm talking today about the Eagles and their collapse and the collapse that everyone has seen from 10-1. That's what we're talking about today.
You're the one who brought up the Jets.
losers.
It was not them. You brought them up. And the other part, too, is who's probably firing their coach in the next couple of days?
Regardless, I think the Eagles have really...
Should be the Jets, but it's not.
The Eagles are a very interesting team moving forward. I'm pretty psyched. I think if they bring in new coordinators, they just had the wrong coaches this year. I think there's a lot of reasons to be optimistic if I'm the Eagles.
Yeah, that'll take care of the locker room problem, bringing new coordinators.
Do you have poll
the locker room
results?
problem is media crap.
ridiculous.
If you made better play, did you see who picked up the blitz last night? Do you think the play calling is disastrous this year with the Eagles?
I agree, but there's something else going on.
No,
How
there's
does
not.
a team like that collapse?
Yeah.
Because their play callers on both sides of the ball were awful.
Can't just be that.
It's that. It's just
can't
that.
just be that.
It's just that.
I don't know. I'm reading this from ESPN yesterday, and it said Jalen Hurts' desired direction for the offense has not materialized, which has been a source of disappointment for the franchise quarterback, according to a source with direct knowledge.
You know who else had problems with leaks this year?
Jets.
New York Jets.
Well,
there's no problem with leaks. There's one ESPN article.
Here we
Who
go.
cares?
A disconnect between the visions of Sirianni, Hurts, and offensive coordinator Brian Johnson has affected the offense's ability to land on an identity, the source says. You got issues. What are the poll results?
The issue is your play calling. You saw it last night. Jalen Hurts took 3 steps back, and there were 9 defensive guys on his head because they didn't know how to call any kind of plays that were good for the blitz. He's a terrible play caller. Go ahead.
Anyway, so we put the poll results out, several polls on the Eagles tonight, this morning. So first, the one we're talking about right now, which is this new loser spotlight that we're talking about, and the question being, should Perloff have to sit in the loser spotlight alone today after the Eagles' defeat? 89% say yes. A little more than 10% say no.
That's a bigger defeat than the Eagles took.
That's pretty bad.
By the way, Eagles win the Super Bowl. I don't feel like I get a bonus check. The Eagles lose. That's not on me.
We also asked, I thought, a very interesting question about which was more of a no-show performance, the Cowboys losing to the Packers or the Eagles losing to the Bucs. 57% say Cowboys losing to the Packers, a bigger no-show than the Eagles losing to the Bucs. That came in at 42%.
Interesting.
And in an earlier poll from the first hour, we asked, do you blame Jalen Hurts for last night's Eagles loss? So 37% say yes, 62% say no.
All right. So most people are with you on that one, not blaming Jalen Hurts for the loss.
Well, the play calling, honestly, last night, you guys all saw the blitz was coming, and is that on Hurts to figure that out, or there was nobody open? He had no choice here. I'm Team Jalen Hurts. I'm excited. Get in. I like Ben Johnson. Give me him.
What about Belichick?
Nah.
But where's Sirianni on that? He's the head coach. He has to, if he sees that there's a problem, he has to step in there.
Honestly, they lost Shane Steichen, and I'm sorry, the whole thing just...
But then how'd they get off to a 10-1 start? Because Shane Steichen's been gone.
Because
11 games.
I'm not quite sure how they did it. The schedule was light. The schedule was light. Honestly, they were 10-1, but their DVOA was middle of the pack.
No, I'm with you on schedule. I think that the Eagles, the Super Bowl year, benefited from an extremely easy schedule.
By the way, that 10-1 stretch where the schedule was quote-unquote light, they beat the Bucs, they beat the Rams, they beat the Dolphins, they beat the Cowboys, they beat the Chiefs, and they beat the Bills.
All playoff teams.
Not a light schedule.
But those teams, the Bucs were struggling at that point of the year, and there's caveats with all of that. The Chiefs kind of stink anyway. To me, and the Dolphins have never beaten a good team. So
the Bucs were undefeated when they played the Eagles.
What was the Bucs were in the middle of a tailspin, weren't they?
They were 2-0.
What did they do after that game?
Their first loss of the season.
Yeah, but what did they do after that game? Did they stink most of the season? Weren't they 9-8?
Right, but they weren't in a tailspin when they played they were 2-0 to start the season.
Regardless, this Eagles team, honestly, I'll wear the loser spotlight if you want, but you guys are lucky I'm not wearing a brown paper bag over my head like most Eagles fans were last night. No, they were all in the Bucs. Like, we all know this team was a loser. I mean, this is not surprising anyone. I think we were bracing for the blow, as it were.
Man, I mean, wearing a brown paper bag on your head, you know what that reminds me of?
The
Jets.
Aints.
There you go.
All right. To me, that's always the New Orleans Saints.
Yeah.
Pete, you know what I'm talking about. The Saints mastered that.
Yeah. Yes.
I think that's Jets behavior. 855-212-4CBS. Okay, speaking of the Cowboys, we did ask that interesting question. What do you consider the bigger no-show? Was it the Cowboys losing to the Packers, or was it the Eagles losing to the Bucs last night? You're welcome to weigh in at 855-212-4CBS. We got more for you on the Cowboys. You got to hear this. We'll play it for you next.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. $45 seconds remaining. $30 seconds remaining. 15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
This portion of the show is brought to you by Wesley Financial. Stuck in a timeshare and want out? Contact Wesley Financial Group now and get a free timeshare exit information kit at wesleyfinancialgroup.com. Cowboys, it's been 2 days. I want to get some attention off my Eagles. Hey, they lost too. Remember that? And people are not happy.
Solid deflection. All right, time for your Cowboy Quickie for today. This is courtesy of WFAA in Dallas. Local TV station was catching Cowboy fans exiting the stadium after that awful loss to the Packers. Here's a little of what these fans had to say.
I can't believe we lost. Y'all ain't nobody else, man.
Disgusted.
I am upset. You feel me? I am from Virginia. I flew all the way in today to watch this. I'm sad.
Frustrated.
We got another Romo on our hands. Choke like I'm
disappointed.
We need another quarterback, another coach, everything. It don't matter to me. It don't matter.
That's how Cowboys fans felt after watching the team implode once again in the playoffs.
We need help. We need Jesus. Yeah.
I don't think he's coming to save the franchise. Dak was not spared by the fans leaving Cowboys Stadium.
No more Dak Prescott. ASAP, new quarterback.
Dak, get him out of here. Trey Lance, the next stud. Let's go. Let's go, Rangers.
That's probably a bridge too far, but
it is tough. If you're hoping on Jesus to help you and then Trey Lance, I don't think either of those are viable for this current state of the Cowboys. Here's more from the Cowboy fans from WFAA.
12-5, 12-5, 12-5. Who cares when we lose like this to the freaking Packers who shouldn't even be here? It's disgusting. Let's get a real head coach. And if he can't do it for us, let's get a new quarterback. I'm tired.
Whoa. That's your Cowboy Quickie.
How many curse words did they have to put on the cutting room floor?
I just love how it's treated like a news story, like breaking news, stunning news. Cowboy fans ticked off that they lost.
Really shouldn't be news, to be honest, right?
I know. Keep losing like that.
You kind of have to do that local news bit, fan reaction. In Philly, it's always a total adventure. When the Phillies lost, the amount of kids giving the middle finger to the newscaster was probably dozens.
Oh, I worked in television news, obviously, before I came here.
Yeah.
And those, we want to talk about loser franchises, those post-Mets, losing in the playoffs and having, our reporter out there outside of Citi Field. Oof. You never knew what was going to happen after those games. Well, honestly, Yankee Stadium might have been a little worse because those were like playoff games, like deep into the playoffs, losing. And
everyone's kind of drunk from beer. Yeah,
Kinda. Extremely. It's like, why are you in a hazmat suit? It's like, I got to go head over to the stadium. Bad loss. That's just a little how Cowboy fans are handling it. Not well, and I don't blame them. Aiden Bogusch is here with headlines. Yo.
Guys, as expected, Baker Mayfield, the best QB on the field as wildcard weekend ended on a Monday night in Tampa Bay. 337 yards and 3 touchdowns in a 32-9 destruction of those drowsy Eagles.
Proud of our guys, proud of everybody in the building to stick together like we did the second half of the year and to get to this spot, to keep fighting, to stick together and don't listen to the outside noise. Just trust the people next to you.
His Bucs have now won 6 of 7. They get to play in Detroit on Sunday afternoon.
Quick question about Baker Mayfield. What the heck has gotten into Baker Mayfield? Like, why is that dude so good now?
I think your Eagles secondary had a little to do with that.
But remember,
they scored 9
torched the
points
Packers
against
a couple weeks ago.
Carolina Panthers.
Yeah.
Before he hurt his ribs, is he a top 15 quarterback now? We remember coming in the year, we can never figure out where to put Derek Carr or Baker Mayfield. Yeah. You had a moment where you're like, I'm into Baker Mayfield. Then you weren't, and same with me.
My moment when I was into Baker Mayfield was I thought it was crazy that the Browns moved on from him.
Yeah.
I didn't understand that. It's like, all right, the guy had a hurt shoulder, granted, non-throwing shoulder. but you didn't fall totally off a cliff. They had just won you a playoff game in Pittsburgh the year before, broke your playoff drought, and you basically kicked him to the curb like garbage.
I mean, he's going to have some success against that Lions DBs. I think they're not going to stop the Lions. This is interesting.
Yeah, it's a big step up in competition for him and the Bucs this weekend against the Lions. Nothing easy. The Eagle teardown, by the way, has begun. Center Jason Kelce reportedly retiring after 1 Super Bowl win, 2 appearances, and 6 first-team All-Pro selections. He was in tears as the game ended. Apparently told his teammates he was done in the locker room. Now, it could have been easier in Buffalo. The Bills scored the first 21 points of the game, but only up 7 in the fourth. That's when Josh Allen's third TD pass put the Steelers away, 31-17.
We were cool, calm, and collected, and nobody blinked, and we just kind of went out there and did our job, and we're going to need to continue to do that.
Starting with Sunday night when the Chiefs come to town, the Steelers go home to figure out why they've lost their last 5 playoff games, and as you've heard this morning, Mike Tomlin ended yesterday's post-game press conference when asked about his contract status. The Bill Belichick Eras Tour has begun. The former Patriot coach interviewed with the Falcons yesterday. He is interviewee number 6 in Atlanta. The group includes Ravens D coordinator Mike McDonald and Niners DC Steve Wilks. Caleb Williams, BTW, finally officially declared for the draft yesterday. The Lakers cooled off the Thunder 112-105 in LA. OKC had won 4 in a row. It's a 6-game win streak for the Jazz thanks to a 132-105 decision over the Pacers. Lauri Markkanen scored 32 for Utah. And then Indy head coach Rick Carlisle, who knows Dirk Nowitzki well, said Markkanen is the closest thing to Dirk that he's seen. Here's the quote. He's a 7-footer that can really stretch the game out and play inside. He's underrated as an athlete, and his length is really special. And the efficiency with which he catches the ball and gets rid of it, shoots it, he just catches it up here, just goes like this from anywhere. People have tried to put bigger guys on him, smaller guys on him. He shoots over the smaller guys. He outcrafts the big guys. So Lauri Markkanen is Dirk 2.0.
Put him in the Hall of Fame.
Mm-hmm. I don't think we've read a quote from a basketball coach that long.
I should have edited that better. That was not a great copy and paste.
He should have.
Yeah. Well, they also should have posted the audio. That would have been helpful as well.
That was not a criticism on you. I think that was a full throttled endorsement of Lauri Markkanen.
Yeah, thanks, Rick.
How many playoff games that guy won, by the way?
Markkanen?
Yeah, Markkanen.
With the Jazz, right?
Yeah, he was with the Cavs, too, and he's with the Bulls, too. He's 13.
Yeah, but he wasn't winning any playoff games with those 2 teams.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Next Dirk. Yeah. Maybe settle a little bit, Rook. Not like Lowry, but come on, Dirk.
Does he have the fadeaway with the 1 foot up?
I just feel like Rick Carlisle might have a better feel for this than any of us in the room.
Considering
he coached Dirk.
That's right. Yeah, that's the point.
He coaches in the NBA. That alone.
Maybe the only thing going well in Philly these days is Joel Embiid. 41 points, 10 boards against the Rockets yesterday. But after his latest absence, this one was for 3 games, some think Embiid has been skipping his tougher matchups like the Celtics and the T-Wolves recently.
Can't control if I get sick and I get the flu or whatever. Can't control that. You can't control if the knee is going to swell up.
Embiid, the quality not great. Says you can't control when you get sick or when you get hurt. He's on pace, by the way, to play just 60 games, which is not enough to be eligible for postseason awards like MVP. He says he doesn't care. The only point is to be ready for the postseason, and he is expected to play tonight against Nikola Jokic and the Nuggets.
That's actually a brilliant strategy, by the way. I think to sit out against your tough matchups, if you're going to load manage, you might as well load manage against the best. I'm actually down with this.
But and not to get on Philly again, but you guys crushed Jokic for missing games against Embiid last year.
Mm-hmm.
And now Embiid's missing games against good teams, and you're like, great, do it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you guys saw that Bucks Celtics games the other day. Like the back to the elite teams, they don't care at all about the regular season now. So
no, the NBA can warn them a million times. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, the load management rules didn't work, so this is what they're doing now.
I actually think this is a smart one by Embiid too, because it doesn't. The 2-time MVP, going for that, it doesn't matter at this point.
He doesn't care at all.
You got your 1 MVP. You got to make it past the second round of the playoffs now.
I think almost you look kind of bad if you win 2 MVPs and can't get past the second round. That gives you a bit of loser energy in itself.
And I defend guys getting hurt or sitting games more than most, but the one part I did agree with is, I mean, if you're hurt, you shouldn't play. Like this idea that, like, oh, you guys were Iron Men, they played through broken hands. I'm like, well, they shouldn't. Like it doesn't make sense. Like they should. If Joel Embiid is sick or he's injured, you should not be risking him in December games. It's simple.
Also, if he gets below that 65, they could really rest him a lot, which will be good for the playoffs. I'm a full load management guy. I have no problem with it. For my team, the rest of the league, I don't want to see them do.
Folks, what else?
Connor Bedard, he is Perloff's favorite hockey player. He was back skating in a full cage, no contact jersey yesterday. That's 7 days after surgery for his broken jaw. His head coach, Luke Richardson, says there's no change in the original timetable of missing 6 to 8 weeks.
I do know Connor Bedard. I didn't know that his coach was Luke Richardson.
Yeah.
I thought John Tortorella coached half the teams. So, yeah.
Not at the same time. Over his career, he has.
I got to be honest. I'm looking online for a loser hat for when we eventually have the loser hat here and whoever has to sit in the loser spotlight.
Just buy an Eagles hat.
Oh, Pete.
But it's so unfair that we actually have playoff teams. If you're a perennial, if you're not even going to get to the playoffs, like, what are you guys, all you Jets fans, just going to wear it all season long?
Well, I think that's going to be the beauty of the loser spotlight is you can wear it for any, you have to wear the hat and be in the loser spotlight for any reason. Like,
right.
It's not just about your team being eliminated.
But I almost feel like the good teams, because the expectations are so much higher, you fall into that loser category more often. Like, if the Giants or Jets lose, everyone's like, oh, of course they lost. Or the Giants or Jets, why are you giving me a loser
for
hat?
example, like when Aaron Rodgers, unfortunately, and I'm not wishing it all, but when he tears his Achilles after I've been saying that Jets are going to have a great season, I got to wear the hat. I got to live with it.
Maybe not for that specific example. It seems especially cruel.
That kind of feels
how about
mean.
when
torn Achilles?
It's not for Aaron Rodgers. It's for me. For believing that the Jets were going to actually do something.
Or I would say like when Nathaniel Hackett does something stupid, maybe you have to wear it. We'll have to debate it.
That feels a little dark. Yeah,
I
the
think
Achilles
every time we should do it. Every time Bogish is in, and we do it at the 20 segment, and there should be a vote on whether or not someone gets to wear the loser hat.
Or if they're resigned to it.
Yes. Yeah. It's not like they want to.
So I'm picking out hats on Twitter here. We got on online. Is this more of like one of those multicolored hats with like a airplane, like a
like a dunce cap? Yeah, I like that.
The dunce caps actually look kind of dated.
Big long cap.
There's one that's just a poop emoji that you have to wear on your head.
Cat might have to, digitally censor that one.
Yeah.
Can I bring up one more debate on the poll question? Was there a question, who's a bigger loser today, or who is more of a letdown, the Eagles or the Cowboys?
Yeah,
yes, Cowboys were at 57%.
Do you understand that the Eagles did not have their single best player on the team in A.J. Brown? They were on the road, and their quarterback had a broken finger. The Cowboys had everybody. We're at home and going against the youngest team. This should not be a poll. Now, if you're going to give an L to a team, the Cowboys are much more of a disaster for what happened,
It's
right?
Funny. I just was looking at a T-shirt that popped up that says "sore loser."
Right. But the Cowboys, wait, this is recency bias. Like, nobody thought the Eagles were going to win that game last night.
Listen,
some people did.
Really? Did anybody? I mean, they were underdogs.
No, I mean,
they lost as underdogs, where the Cowboys lost as huge favorites. That is a much.
No. The Eagles were favorites. They opened as favorites.
Yeah, and I think also.
Oh, you're right. They were 3-point favorites.
Right, and it goes beyond just that game. This is the culmination of a total meltdown. So it's not just, you lost this one game. It's you guys were maybe going to be number 1 seed, and now you're out of the playoffs, losing to Todd Bowles and Baker Mayfield.
But this was a slow burn lose. Where the Cowboys, it was like a hammer to the
like
neck.
The Cowboys
was
way worse.
Awful.
Totally.
Anyway, you can go vote on our poll at Maggie and Pearl. Who? How do we word it, EJ?
So which was
just pick the Eagles.
More of a no-show performance? Cowboys lose to Packers. Eagles lose to Bucks right now. Packers 59%. Bucks Eagles Bucks 40%.
I think we worded it: vote for Eagles so Perloff gets madder.
Fly, Eagles, fly.
Thank you, Andrew Bogish. Coming up, lots more to do here. We mentioned Jim Harbaugh interviewing. We also have some news from Deion Sanders. Lot to do here on Maggie and Perloff. It's the show, picking out loser hats. Don't move. We're back in a minute.
You're in a 5-minute break. 4 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. .45 seconds remaining. .30 seconds remaining. .15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Do you believe that? Deion. You believe that?
You don't think we'd forget about Deion Sanders, did you? Here's Deion looking for a new defensive coordinator, but he's got to wait for the NFL hiring cycle to calm down.
Two staff members that we didn't introduce as our coordinator. And I could easily choose a coordinator for you. But instead of being hasty, I'd rather be right. Thank you. Because you deserve it. So you got to understand the NFL is just getting over, and there's still some teams in the playoffs. So not only we're trying to get you a pro, but we're trying to get you a professional, either from college or from the NFL, but we're trying to do it right because this side of the room, right defense, you deserve that.
All right, so Deion kind of monitoring the college and the NFL hiring cycle and then trying to poach somebody to come and coach the defense there.
How about our buddy Leslie Frazier interviewing with the Raiders for the head coaching job? If he doesn't get that, doesn't Leslie Frazier, a veteran, Deion loves these veterans. Who was the play caller?
Warren Sapp. Oh, Pat Shurmur.
He had Pat Shurmur last year. Yeah, guys who've been around for a long time and the NFL might not be as interested in. I feel like Leslie Frazier would be awesome. I'm all about Deion right now.
I thought it was really funny that the Chargers put out a tweet that said, we completed our interview with Leslie Frazier, and it's Frazier in all Bills gear. And our pal Dave Damashek tweeted, I hope he didn't wear that to the interview. It's kind of silly. There's not one other photo we can find of Leslie Frazier. He's been famous since the 80s.
I kind of think it's weird that they're doing this whole we've completed the interview with
It's showing
Bill.
It's like a signing day.
Rule,
Yeah, it's like a new thing. Oh, so you say signing day. It almost reminds me of like when these recruits now say, I've been offered by this school, a school they have no intention of going to. It's just
So on that front, I have a question for you guys. Bill Belichick interviewed yesterday with Atlanta, who had this congratulatory self-tweet. And then Jim Harbaugh interviewed with the Chargers. So all of a sudden, the clock is ticking. So if you're the Cowboys and the Eagles, how long can you wait for those, specifically Belichick? I think firings are going to come down faster because they got to get in on this before somebody wraps up Harbaugh and before someone wraps up Belichick.
Yeah, listen, this is great for Harbaugh and Belichick. You're going to start bidding wars. Teams are going to try to get in on them. I think that's how it's going to go. What's interesting to me about Harbaugh and the Chargers, that's a really great fit.
Yeah.
Like if I'm the Chargers, I don't want him leaving the building. That's how good that could be.
And he coached in California. There's a lot of advantages. LA, I think, is a draw for someone like Harbaugh. So I worry about all the other teams who think they're going to get Harbaugh. I think Dallas has to start to throw their hat in the ring. I was shocked. Did you know Belichick was going to interview that quickly for Atlanta? To me, I thought that was going to take some time. I mean,
what are you waiting for?
We heard it too right out of the gate after he stepped away from the Patriots.
Yeah,
that they were involved. So he had a feeling it was coming.
But yeah, I don't know why. I just thought this whole thing would take a little longer. That's why if I'm the Eagles, I do not want to sit around and be. Otherwise, it's going to be Sirianni again.
Well, it might not be that. There's still other talented guys. You mentioned you want Vrabel, which, by the way, has Vrabel interviewed anywhere?
Gosh, I haven't seen a headline.
I haven't either. It's possible it could have been missed, but
he maybe doesn't do this cycle. He does TV for a year.
That'd be interesting. You're so hot. You're such a hot candidate right now.
I mean, by the way, talking about a marriage, doesn't Vrabel feel like a Steelers coach too? Bill Cowher. He's Bill Cowher reinvented.
Yeah, maybe. But I don't know about Tomlin. I mean, Tomlin to me right now feels like very staunch 50-50. And I would probably move on. I think that he's been telling you, I don't think that Jake Laser has a report that Mike Tomlin's thinking about, might want someone else to trade for him or thinking about stepping away. I don't think that gets out there. We haven't heard a peep about Tomlin in 15 years. And now all of a sudden, 16 years. And now all of a sudden, there's a couple of the NFL insiders have some tidbits about it.
Yeah, no, you're right. And Tomlin reportedly does have a close relationship with those guys. They're not just firing off the hip. It is the timing, again, a factor. Like if Tomlin delays this, then the Steelers might miss this whole cycle. Because I would think the day you lose, you probably want to quit, right? And remember, you always say players want to retire right after the season. Then a month later, they're like, oh, shoot,
right.
I feel better. So maybe Tomlin's going to give it some time, which case could kind of be a bad situation. The Steelers might not have their choice.
But here's a question. If the Steelers, would they really want a retread?
I have no idea. No, probably not.
Like a Belichick that doesn't.
But even so, I think the hot assistants might get hired before. He can't wait 5 weeks.
No, I get that, but
and I don't think the Steelers have anyone on their staff.
Well, to be honest, I actually don't want to give the Steelers any advice on how to hire a coach. They know how to do it. I mean, at some point, you've got to give, whether it's the exact same people in the room or not, don't you have to give them the benefit of the doubt that they'll find somebody?
No, they've hired 3 coaches in 65 years.
I'm telling you, this is not the kind of job where the more you do it, the better you are at it.
Well, nobody there hired Mike Tomlin. Maybe one of the Rooneys is there, but whatever. It is kind of random. It's kind of like the Packers and quarterbacks. Yes, they know how to draft quarterbacks, obviously. So I actually think if the Eagles are going to move on, they better do it quickly, because what happens, Atlanta, Bill Belichick, it's warm down there. He's going to get into it. Once you decide you're going to take this job, and your Bills are probably screwed too. Because they're probably all in on Belichick if McDermott loses, and now they're going to be late to the party.
Yeah, I was always wondering about that.
I think McDermott will be back, unlike
he'll
you.
Be back now.
This was a big win. I mean,
I called it before the win. I wanted Harbaugh, but go ahead.
It feels a little safer now that they won this one game, because you lose to the Chiefs, or maybe not. I don't know. What do you think? I know it's a day after a win. It's hard to put your brain there, and I don't want to jinx you.
Well, I've already said what I would have done.
Yeah.
I would fire him for Jim Harbaugh. Now, that's kind of tough because they're still playing. But
yeah.
So the timeline might not match up, but I think McDermott kind of gone as far as he can go with this team.
Yeah.
So.
It is interesting to me that they rallied around him so much this year. That does say something.
They did. They rallied around him. They kind of closed ranks. I don't want to say it's a little easier to do in Buffalo, but it might be.
Yeah.
I mean, since the offensive coordinator the change, it feels like things are a little bit better.
You got to stay healthy. All right, so I say we come in tomorrow that McCarthy and Sirianni, one of those guys might be gone.
Is there any world where Mike McCarthy stays?
Yeah.
I don't think there is, but...
The loyal Jerry thing.
I mean, how do you do that to your fan base?
Well, they've been 12-5 3 years in a row. It's not so radical. I'd say with Sirianni, I mean, you could make a good argument. The guy's been in the playoffs 3 straight years. It's not like Frank Reich and the Panthers.
No, I get that, but I think it's a question of, do you want to try to get one of these big coaches in this hiring cycle? If you want a Jim Harbaugh, if you want a Bill Belichick, if you want Vrabel, if you want to go after one of these guys, then you got to do it now. And even if you think next year you would fire a guy, next year you got to try to do it now.
Yeah, no, you're right. This is those 3 guys are just screwing it up for incumbent coaches everywhere. Not to mention Ben Johnson could be just as hot as any of those guys. The $15 million a year Lions assistant. I'll take him for the Eagles.
DT's in the chat said Sirianni interviewing at Central Bucks West substitute teaching opportunities.
Wow. Well, so that's a football powerhouse. It used to be. They set the all-time record for wins in a row. That's the one famous football program around us. Yeah, Sirianni, I bet you, all right, I'd like to we probably won't all be together by the time this happens, but I'll bet you Sirianni gets another job at some point of his NFL life. Believe it or not.
Oh.
Because he connects with players. Believe it. I know there's problems.
Not currently his quarterback, if you believe the ESPN article.
No, I think that quarterback, he's talking about the play calling there, is a mess. I think Sirianni gets a second life. Be someone we always forget the end and say, oh, he had 3 winning seasons. Guys I don't think it's been that bad, even though I do want to fire him.
Meanwhile, the other news that we didn't get to today, which is that Caleb Williams decided to declare officially for the NFL draft. I mean, this was not a shock at all, but if I'm the Bears, and I think this has always been the plan, I am trading Justin Fields, I am drafting Caleb Williams. I don't know why they didn't fire Eberflus to just get a full new head coach in there. They want to do this half measure. I think they're going to end up regretting that, but at least you do get Caleb Williams. And by the way, guess who last night was attending the Bucs-Eagles game?
Who?
Lincoln Riley. Did you guys see him on the sideline supporting Jalen Hurts and Baker Mayfield, who both played for him at Oklahoma? But I was like, oh yeah, Lincoln Riley. Remember that guy?
I think I disagree with you in one sense. I think if the Bears beat the Packers in Week 18 and they end up 8-9, I think there's at least a discussion. I don't think it was a no-brainer. Being they would have been the hottest team, they would have felt like last year's Lions. You don't think that they would have been excited?
Hot enough to pass on the number 1 overall pick for a quarterback 2 years in a row? That's crazy.
Well, last year it worked out very well.
Yeah, it did, but you can't do that 2 years in a row when you don't know what the ceiling for Fields may not be as high as Caleb Williams.
It's really the salary cap.
And that too. We got to go. Thank you so much to EJ Stewart. Thank you to Pete Bellotti. Thank you to Andrew Bogish and Andrew Kaplan. Weirdos and coffee drinkers on fire today. The callers as well. We'll see you tomorrow. Will Mike McCarthy still be the head coach of the Cowboys?